Hello and welcome to episode 190, Ernesto,
Wow.
to Box Office Bingers. Man, we are just climbing up that ladder, aren't we?
Trish just
It's
trucking right along.
just chucking right along. I'm excited for this episode.
So am I.
It's this is I feel like a genre that we don't often visit too much, but this is also a high Oscar contender. So tell our listeners what we are reviewing this week.
So this week we are reviewing Past Lives, starring Greta Lee, T.U., John Magaro, written and directed by Celine Song, who's her directorial debut. She was a staff writer for The Wheel of Time season 1. So yeah, this is definitely an Oscar bait type of movie. Um,
Yeah.
I got some thoughts on it. I'm very curious at where
Okay.
to what yours are. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. But Matthew, we have a lot of news this week. Like
Yeah, we do.
like we were getting things in, and like you had stories, and then I had stories I wanted to put in, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of news.
Yeah, there's a lot of news, and I feel like that we got a couple of updates on stories we've talked about in the past. We have a couple of new stories. It's a nice wide range. We got some nerd stuff we got to talk about. Some things that are happening in the industry. You know what people have been saying lately. We got. It's a nice,
We
well-rounded
got
piece of
there's
news
a
we
little
got
bit of
going on.
tea this week too. I mean, we got
A
it
little
all.
bit
We
of
got it
tea.
all this week.
Yes,
So
that's all the news. All the news. We
all right,
got
we're
it.
done.
We got it. It's all here.
So first off, we got some good news. It's official. The WGA writer strike is officially over. After a week of voting, 99% of the Writers Guild of America membership cast their ballot in favor of ratifying the 3-year minimum basic agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, bringing to a final end the strike that has lasted for nearly 5 months. But on the flip side of that, about a week after the negotiations, the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee, and the AMPTP have walked away from the bargaining table. SAG-AFTRA took to social media to say to our fellow SAG-AFTRA members, "It is with profound disappointment that we report the industry CEOs have walked away from the bargaining table after refusing to counter our last offer. We have negotiated with them in good faith, despite the fact that last week they presented an offer that was shockingly worth less than they proposed before the strike began." Now, wow. So it just seems like maybe they're putting their eggs more into the writing because of all this technology they have that is literally going to help them save like millions and millions of dollars.
Well,
And I'm sure that's
it's
just a
so
small
weird.
part of the bigger piece, but it to me that's just kind of what it
Sure.
seems like. Like you finished the writer strike, so we're kind of in the same ballpark. It's almost like a general expectation that like this should be done. Like you finish one, you should be ready to finish the other one. Like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that because how can you it only took about 3 to 4 days of negotiating for for the writers the Writers Guild of America committee was negotiating for 3 days with the AMPTP, and then they came to a conclusion, and then they had a great, everyone was meeting, the terms that they wanted. We talked about what exactly went into the 3-year minimum basic agreement 2 episodes ago. So we're 190. So about I think episode 188 we kind of full discussed it. So you can go back and listen to that episode to see all the details around that. But to us, it was a good deal, and obviously 99% of the Writers Guild membership agreed with that deal. And it's so weird that shortly after they they came up with this agreement, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to work on the actors. You would think that they would be under the same mindset that we just want this over, and then to hear that they are offering less than what they proposed before the strike, like, what are we doing here?
what's going on?
Why are we why are we prolonging this any further than we are when you know that you can make a deal and end this thing? It just doesn't make any sense. So now I'm really curious of like what are the demands like we know a little bit of what the demands are for the SAG-AFTRA, but we don't know everything until they release it. So I'm really curious on like what is being asked, why they're not coming to an agreement, because I feel like in some cases, specifically with AI, it's very similar to what the writer strike was going through. Well, very much different because obviously they're using likeness, and maybe that's where they're butting heads.
Mm.
Where I don't know, but it just seems odd that after a week of bargaining, they had to walk away. Like they had to walk away from it, and so it's just sad. So now they're back in full swing. You would think that I thought we were ending this. I thought we were going to come in this week saying they reached an agreement, they're going to vote on it, all that stuff, and no, it's just really sad to see that. But also on the good side of it, at least one strike is over. So
Yeah, it's true. It just seems like maybe they're valuing writing more. They're treating the writers as celebrities as like they used to treat the actual on-screen talent. Like, you know what I
hmm
mean? I don't know. It just this
yeah,
is it's just it's interesting. It's interesting it's just very clear where they see the value in
yeah, at least for now
for
anyway.
the value in investing on what people, because like you're in the same
Yeah,
kind of negotiation, but you're able to come to terms with one than the other now. Or is did I mean, Bob Iger has said before, when he was on his ranch,
yeah,
saying that they have unrealistic expectations. So I mean, do they?
yeah,
Maybe do all the heads feel like that? Is this? I mean, we obviously
right.
don't know the general specifics, but maybe there's no. I don't know. I'm curious to see where this is going to end. I mean, obviously, I think the whole world is, because we want to see
Yeah.
kind of where the entertainment industry is going to go. But the fact that we have one agreement, that should be the basis for the other agreement that's about the same industry. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And what's funny is that right now, like when the two strikes were going on, the only active thing that could happen is post production.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that was already filmed and already written can still be completed and be released if the studio so wished to choose so. But now, right now, with the writer's strike being over, we can now work again on pre-production. We can start writing scripts. The directors can talk with writers, and we can get the ball moving that way. But the middle part, when the movie still got to be made and the TV still got to be made, that part is still on
Yeah.
hold. So any previous projects that was working in the past is still on hold. So we can work on future projects and we can like tighten up the script on current projects, but we still can't move forward with those projects. So I think, as we said before, if it doesn't start soon, we're really going to see the impact of this going into the new year.
Yeah.
We're really going to see it like early 2024, even into the summer. Some of the big blockbusters that we were anticipating might be pushed back by 6 months to a year because the filming schedule wasn't right. We were talking about just 2 weeks ago how certain TV shows and movies, well, primarily TV shows, are getting canceled because of this, because they don't know when they're going to be able to go back and start writing and start filming. So for the studios, it was just easier to cancel the show than it is to kind of wait it out. And that's just sad to see that. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
Yes,
just
but I
yeah.
think there's going to be the unexpected fallout from this. I think two things. We're going to hit our lull like we did our COVID when
hmm
everything just shut down. But then I feel like it's going to go from 0 to 100, because
Yes.
if production is stopped now, but pre-production is going on, like can you imagine the amount of, without being bogged down with current projects, you guys can primarily focus on all these things pre-production. And the only
Yeah.
good thing, like you mentioned, which is, it sucks but is also kind of a good thing, is like it shows that we're like on the line of performing. Like they're like, well, we're just gonna have to cut the fat that's on the bottom. So now we only have the
Right.
cream of the crop. But now I guess this opens up for much better projects. I don't know, this could have an
Sure.
unexpected good consequence in the end. Like this is gonna suck for a lot
Yeah.
of people for a long time, and obviously they need to kind of get the ball rolling. But I don't know. I'm hopeful for that. Once we get to a resolution, that on the end of
hmm
this, we could see something great. We could see some great work come out of different places.
Hopefully, because they also, to your point, that the writers were allowed to write during the strike, just not for a
Yeah.
studio, not tied to anything. So like, excuse me, if they were having an idea, if they had an idea during the strike, they could have written a whole script on their own if they wanted
Yeah.
to. So then now that the strike is over, they have something to present to other studios now. They can officially do that. But nothing was stopping them from actually writing. So to your point, with 5 months maybe, not doing too much, you could have had an opportunity to really develop something great, and we can see that in fruition coming soon. Um, but yeah, I just find it really interesting that we are like literally we have one that's ending and one that we are just hitting roadblocks on. And I feel like if they're hitting roadblocks on, they're walking away from the bargaining table, then I feel like it's going to take another month or so before we even start back on the going back to
Yeah.
negotiating. And then we're going to be entering the holidays soon. And then now this is going to be bleeding into 2024. And then you're like, oh man, all these upcoming projects that we were looking forward to, some that were almost done filming, is just going to be delayed, delayed, delayed. I guarantee that come probably November, December time, specifically with projects in 2024, we're going to be coming back on this podcast and announcing delays, delays,
Oh, of course
delays.
there is. Of course. Well, this is
Yeah.
getting pushed back. I mean, we've already seen it with Wonka and
Hmm.
oh, what was the other?
No, no, Wonka stayed in its spot.
Dune.
It was Dune. Dune
Dune
was the big
2.
one that got pushed back. Yeah. They pushed back Craven the Hunter by a
That's what. Yeah,
year.
yeah. Craven the Hunter too.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just
Um,
them. Who knows what else we're gonna see on the other end? I'm sure,
True.
like you said, I'm sure there's gonna be more. Well,
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully they can work it out, and we just want the actors to have fair compensation and for everyone to get back to work, because we really do like these TV shows, these movies, and we just want some good content back on the screen. Even though we're still getting some, we're on the holdovers, but eventually there's going to be a lull. And I guess at that point we just start looking for other things to do. But anyway, after that, this next piece of news, Ernesto, this one hits me. This one hits home a little bit for me. This hits home. Best Buy will start phasing out the sales of physical DVDs and Blu-ray discs
yeah.
both in stores and online in early 2024. A Best Buy spokesperson said, "To state the obvious, the way we watch movies and TV shows is much different today than it was a decade ago. Making this change gives us more space and opportunity to bring customers new and innovative tech for them to explore, discover, and enjoy." I'm gonna put a little BS on that, because the DVD Blu-ray section at Best Buy, not that
Not
big.
exactly.
Not that big. To say that you have more space, you have maybe more space for like another display. just put another TV right
Yeah.
there. That's like one
Yeah.
TV that wasn't covering a lot of room. Best Buy will continue to sell movies and TV shows on physical discs through the 2023 holiday shopping season, online and in stores, before discontinuing the sales in the new year. Best Buy will, however, continue to sell physical video game discs, which I find interesting. Best Buy's exit from the market will leave Walmart, Amazon, and Target as top retailers in the U.S. selling physical DVDs and Blu-ray discs. This move comes after Netflix ended its 25-year-long DVD by mail service just last month, shipping its last DVDs to customers on September 29th and allowing them to keep their final disc. That was also an end of an era as well. But I think those two things are just kind of showing that the way we consume content is changing,
Mm.
and we knew that already, but now I think it's now hitting into the consumer market of how we get that content eventually. And I know that Target has been reducing the amount of stores that actually sell physical media like DVDs and Blu-rays. So like there are certain Targets out there in the U.S. that you walk into and they have no Blu-rays or DVDs. The ones that are local to us, they still have them because I checked. But yeah, I'm sure. I mean, but also that section has become a lot smaller over the years, and so yeah. To me, I mean, especially Best Buy is the place to get the best like physical
Yeah, they always had good
Blu-rays.
sales.
They have great sales, and they also have the steel books.
Mm-hmm.
They are like, if you want like a good casing for your Blu-ray or 4K, you went to Best Buy. They have the Steelbook. I always like the Marvel ones, not all of them, but I like some of them. And I just recently I picked up the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Steelbook and the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Steelbook. They're good. I've reduced the amount of physical 4Ks that I like the discs. I reduced the amount that I buy significantly over the years, and I probably buy a handful of them over the years. But at the same time, I get it with this
Yeah.
with movies going from theaters to video on demand as low as 2 weeks, and then within a month or 2 months, depending on the movie, you can watch it on a streaming service, and people don't care to own that anymore
Yeah.
if you're already paying for the streaming
Except for
service.
us.
Except for us,
people
yeah.
like us. No, but it makes sense.
You know
yeah.
what? Yeah. Because go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just I mean I just agree with you. I remember going on Black Friday and being like, "Ooh, what?" I mean, I got like all 8 seasons of Smallville for like under $100, and I was like, "Man, this is great." I got the whole almost the whole thing. I'm still waiting for. This is when their series was still ongoing at that point. But it was just it was things like that. But I mean, it makes sense. They can't compete. You even without Walmart and Target and Amazon. Like even think about Vudu, which actually I'm sorry, I think is owned by Walmart if I remember correctly.
It's Vudu is. I don't know if it's owned by Walmart, but I know so Universal owns Fandango that owns Vudu. If you did not know that.
No.
So maybe not Universal, Comcast who owns Universal that owns Fandango that now owns Vudu. But Walmart is in there somewhere. Yeah. Walmart has some ties with Vudu. Yeah.
Because even through them, you can buy the movie digitally, and then you can choose an option where you can buy a physical disc and they'll send it to you. Like, well, this is perfect, and especially now. So now I think we've tiered movies differently. So you have your movies that you're like, oh, this movie, I really want to own this movie, but I don't necessarily want to have the disc for this movie. I just want to be able to pull it up on my digital library. Whereas a movie like Guardians 3, or like I got a few like Eat Nobody, Everything Everywhere All at Once, like just certain ones you're like, ooh, this one's going in the collection in case it gets removed from everywhere else, or in case my Vudu goes down. Like this is one I want to make sure I have physically forever. And it's just I think 100%. There's just a higher value when it comes to physical discs now. It's more of a collector's thing in case it goes away or something happens.
Yeah, and even the marketing that I see like at Target, it was like especially for Marvel movies, they were just like add to your collection. It's like they know that people buy physical media for certain franchises. But then every now and then, like I also own a copy of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I got it for Top Gun Maverick. And I plan on doing it for other movies that came out this year. Like I want to own a physical copy of John Wick 4 because I have all the other ones. I have all the Marvel ones, so I don't have Black Panther Wakanda Forever yet, but I plan on it. The same with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Even though like Quantumania wasn't my favorite, I feel like at this point I have all the other ones. I can't stop now.
That was going to be my next question to you. So do you own the entire collection of all Marvel movies?
Oh yeah, all of them. I own all.
So
of them.
I started I did like the first phase. Like all the way up until maybe Infinity War. I think there's like maybe like 1 or 2 that I'm missing. But then after that, I was like, I'm good. Like
I'm good. Yeah.
Because then there's certain ones like I just don't like. Like I don't want to have a copy of Quantumania. Like I don't like. That's I can just go on Disney Plus to watch that. And if it goes away, it goes away.
That's okay. Yeah. But I mean, you make a good point because with the age of streaming and specifically Disney Plus, like for example with Guardians 3. Guardians was on Disney Plus before you can even get the physical media for it. So why to anybody else who doesn't care, why am I going to buy the movie and the stores when I can watch it for a subscription service that I'm already paying for and they're already giving it to me in the highest quality possible that I would? I ran into that issue with like cuz I used to buy the Pixar movies. But then when they started coming on Disney Plus, I was like, well, I typically would never buy a Pixar movie in 4K. I didn't feel the need to do that with certain of the movies. So when I saw that it was going to be releasing in the resolution of 4K on Disney Plus, I'm like, well, then I have no reason to buy it because I'm not going to buy I was never planning on buying the movie in 4K, so I have the better resolution, and I'm already paying for it. I have no reason to pay for like a lower quality version of the movie
Just to have
because
it.
it's I have a just to have it when I have a better quality version of the movie readily accessible to
Yeah.
me, and I know it's not going anywhere. So, so yeah, that's the dilemma that I've been dealing with these the past few years. But now it feels like because Best Buy, again, you made a good point, always had the best deals on them.
Hmm.
So now that that's going away, Target never put good deals on 4Ks. Amazon, you're lucky if you can get that, and Walmart never has the sale. So yeah, I feel like for me, it's that's a true end of an era, and now as the Best Buy spokesperson said, they have plenty of more room. They can put nothing in their store.
I think what I think. I mean, I understand why they're sticking to video games. It makes sense. I mean, that's where they're gonna make
Oh
they're
yeah,
gonna make more money like that. They can, I think like GameStop does it. Well, they'll release
yeah,
like game exclusive things if you buy it from this specific store. GameStop's
hmm
notorious for that. I haven't seen Best Buy do that in a while, but like
yeah.
they gotta
They
tap.
really
They got.
haven't.
I mean, that's really the smart thing to do. And you offer different things because then you know, then if like, oh well, I want to get the Best Buy because this one has the map or this one has the skin that I
Right.
want or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it just also just tells that if GameStop, after all these years, no matter how many issues they've had over the years, how many stores they had to shut down, they're still alive and they're still doing it, and it's better than what Movie Stop was able to do because they had to shut down all those
Oh, I
stores.
remember. Yes,
It's
right.
better. I loved. Oh man, I loved Movie Stop. That was my place, Ernesto. That and an Fye. Those are my homes.
That's right.
And then also obviously Blockbuster, but Blockbuster I had it down to a science that when a certain movie came out, but then they put it in the bargain bin, and they had the 2 for 20 deal, and it was like 5 months after it was there, and I used to go there. It's like, ha ha, mom, I told you, two movies, two for
Two
20,
for 20.
got them,
Got him.
2 for 20. Got two new releases right here. And so yeah, those are great times, and it was also just a good excuse to go to the store and kind of shift through what they had and maybe find a good deal in the mix. No, it doesn't do that anymore. Now I just go to Voodoo every Tuesday, see what's on sale, and if it's 10 or less, I might buy it, and that's kind of where
That's kind of where I'm
that's
at.
kind of where that's good. Yeah, like there's like in my mind, I'm not spending more than $10 on a digital copy of a movie.
And then
So
on top
that's
of
just
that,
if it's
you're gonna see like, oh, it's $10. Well, hold on. Let me see if this is
yeah,
streaming somewhere.
yeah,
Let me see if
yeah,
this is on a streaming somewhere service first before I commit to buying this movie that I could
right.
watch
Because then
for at no additional cost.
exactly, it's so funny because like I've been wanting to get all of the like not the MCU but the Marvel movies, like all of them, like even like the Blades, the Ghost
Hmm.
Rider, Fantastic Fours. I've been trying to collect those every now and then, just to add to my digital library because I have all the MCU movies digitally, but not all of the Marvel
Yeah.
movies. So, but I also own all the DVDs for the Marvel movies as well. I just want them digitally. But either way, the trilogy in particular, there was always like, oh, it's on sale for 15. Three movies, 15. That's $5 each. Yeah, that's good, but it's still streaming on Peacock, so it's not
I
like
could
I'm
wait.
it's not it's not like I'm watching it anytime soon. It's just adding it to my library. So if I really want to watch it, I can go to Peacock. But in the meantime, I know it's still
But
there.
well, no, because even then you would just watch it. Let's say if it left Peacock and then the new
Yeah,
Blade movie's coming out, what are you gonna do?
right.
Then you're gonna
I mean, what maybe,
you would
but
feel
I to
compelled.
that
You would
point,
feel compelled to buy
I will. You're right. I will feel compelled to buy it, but also like it's so funny because now I have like a whole bunch of DVDs, right? And even like with like the Blade trilogy, I own on DVD, all three of them. But before I even pop in that DVD, I would see if it's streaming anywhere else because like I don't want to watch this in like standard definition. I want 4K. I want HD. So like even my DVDs now become useless because most of those movies are in a streaming service somewhere and they're presenting it in a higher quality.
it. True.
So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that. But yeah, end of an era. Pretty sad about it, but it's not to say that I'm too surprised by this.
No, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Moving on. And kind of on the flip side of that, almost
Yes.
like I kind of actually like the way that you stack these two stories, because like we're talking about the end of an era, but now we're going to talk about something that's possibly the future of Netflix. So
That's
Netflix is
right.
planning to open a series of physical retail stores called Netflix House starting in 2025. The stores will sell merchandise based on popular Netflix shows and movies, and will also offer food and drink inspired by the shows. In addition, the stores will host live events such as screenings, Q&A sessions, and meet and greet with the cast and crew members. Netflix has not released many details about the stores yet, but it is clear that the company is trying to create a unique and immersive experience for its fans. The stores will be a place where fans can go to shop for its merchandise, eat and drink food from their favorite shows, and participate in exclusive events. This is an incredible idea. I think that
Yeah.
we've been waiting for something like this to happen. We've been waiting to see how streaming can come out in the physical world, and I think this
Hmm.
is, and it almost sounds like a mini movie theater. Like that would make
Yeah.
sense. Like give us a couple screens, and you've got like a rotating thing that's like, well, this one has got Netflix movies, and this one today they're playing this series, or I don't know. Like they could do so many different things, and I thought it was interesting that they bring up the live events, because it almost seems like, oh well, we're not gonna have to go to the cons anymore. We're just gonna have our own cons at one of these
That's a good
events,
point.
and then this is where we can do our big drops. Like we'll bring press, we can bring everybody here, and we can literally do everything, all our promotion in house in our physical stores. I mean, they already do it now. They got the even. I'm sorry, we're talking about the food now. Like look at Surfer Boy Pizza from Stranger Things. They can literally
Yeah.
they already sell those by the freezer. I'm sure there's already more, and there's going to be more that they're going to think of and incorporate now.
Yeah.
But my only worry is that Netflix will become like a. It's like this show's like, oh, which product are they going to place in here so they can sell in their stores?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
What are
mean,
your thoughts?
I kind of like it too because it's nothing to, like right now. Obviously we live in Orlando. Halloween Horror Nights is a big deal right now for all people who live in Orlando, Floridians. It's a huge event,
Hmm.
and throughout the years, Netflix has been in a partnership with Universal, and they've done Stranger Things in like they've created those experience already in partnership with Universal.
Hmm.
So back in 2019, I believe was the first year, or 2018 was the first year they did Stranger Things. And then yeah, it was 2018. And then 2019 they did Stranger Things season 2 and 3, and now this year they did Stranger Things 4, and then in 2021, I believe, they did The Haunting of Hill House.
Mm.
So like I'm sorry, Netflix is kind of been dipping their toes in this in a while to create these experiences coming out of their shows. And now this year, like you said, they have Surfer Boy Pizza. There's a lot of merchandise that comes around that as well that they were selling. And I'm sure that they were looking at that among other things. But they're like, people are really into this. People really enjoy immersing themselves into our programming. Why not just make like a permanent hub for that? And I'm assuming, this is my assumption anyway, they're probably going to start in LA because that's where their offices
New
are.
York.
And then if this is a success, then they're going to start branching out to other parts of the country. Um, Makes a whole bunch of sense. The fact that this is a place for screenings and Q&As and hosting live events, you make a great point. Everything will be in house now. They can bring the media over. If they want to push something and promote something, this will be the place to do it. If you want people to say, "Hey, you want to go see this movie for free in our theater, presumably," then yeah, let's do that too. Make this an event. Come meet the celebrities. We have the red carpet. Literally, it's the Netflix red. We'll
Hmm.
put down the Netflix red carpet and have our premieres here as well. I think it's a good, at least trial run to see if this can work
Yeah.
for Netflix, because I think there's a lot of they have a lot of big IPs they can go off of. Obviously, we talked about Stranger Things. I know One Piece was pretty popular. A lot of people like the show, so they can go off of that. Bridgerton was another big one that they kind of became really popular from that. And so Netflix does have its heavy hitters that they can easily do. And after coming from New York, I just visited New York, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I saw the Back to the Future musical, but among that, we went to 30 Rock, and 30 Rock has a whole NBC store on like the bottom floor, and they had every NBC merch you can think of there. And so if you're a fan of The Office, you're a fan of SNL, if you're a fan of Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, all that merch is there. And it cost them little to nothing to have that there. So why why not Netflix give it a go on Netflix House? So yeah, I think this is a good idea. I'm really curious to see how this is going to work. We're still another year and a bit away from it, but I think it can prove, if done right, they can turn this into something pretty big
Agreed.
and something pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, again, hopefully it works out for them. But moving on from the streaming world, this news, I find this really interesting.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this at all. But Chris Rock is in final talks to direct and produce a Martin Luther King Jr. biopic for Universal Pictures, with none other than Steven Spielberg on board to executive produce. The movie will be based off the Jonathan Iggs biography King, A Life. Iggs' book has been called the definitive biography of the late civil rights icon. The uses of new FBI information, hundreds of interviews to paint a portrayal of King as a courageous and emotionally troubled individual who demanded peaceful protest while gripping his own
Frailties.
frailties, and a government that hunted him. Since it's in the early development process, casting has not been announced. I do believe Chris Rock can be a good director. I've seen him do it in his movie Top Five. I thought that was a great movie.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's really funny. It has Rosario Dawson in it. It's a good movie. What I did not like his most recent directing movie was Saw Jix no
Spiral, yeah.
Spiral. Yeah, that was awful. So I so if there's any words of advice for Chris Rock, which he's not listening to this and he doesn't need it from me,
No.
but just saying, give us a top five. Do not give me a Spiral. We don't need Spiral. But yeah, I found this interesting.
I'm kind of hopeful. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's doing it with Steven Spielberg, so I mean that's
yeah.
got to at least put a step up in his book. But
Absolutely.
my hope is that they just treat his life with respect, and that.
Absolutely.
But I mean, we already got some. But I guess Selma was about that event. I guess so. This is going to encapsulate kind of everything, even go over. So it's going to go over the good and the bad, because there's many things that are contested about his life. So
right.
I mean, we're gonna see it. I'm gonna be interested to see it.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing it. Like, I feel like this is the Elvis of, like, the Elvis approach, where we're gonna. Well, right. Well, not like the idea of what Elvis was, which was we're gonna give you like a 2.5 hour overview of his entire life from beginning to end, and it feels like that's what this movie's going to be. We're gonna have a full overview, and most likely, in a long biopic, and fashion, which I'm okay with. I'm perfectly fine with it. Like you said, we did get Selma not too long ago, but I mean, this is not going to be the first nor the last time we're going to see a Martin Luther King Jr.
of
movie,
and as it shouldn't be. They should make a million movies about him. I mean, but
yes,
we'll see what Chris Rock has to bring to the table. But you know what I think. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I just find it interesting that Chris Rock will be directing this movie.
Yeah,
like I'm not 100% familiar with him as a director, aside from the two movies I just listed. But like, maybe he brought something to the table that really intrigued Universal and Spielberg to make him the best candidate to do a movie like this.
You know what I think? I think they just feel bad for him because he got the shit slapped out of him. No, I'm just joking. But speaking of the slap.
Yes.
Segue. Yeah, nice. We're gonna make a hard left turn. Miss Jada Pinkett Smith was on the Today Show this past week and gave Hoda an exclusive interview. She's promoting her book, and within her book, some certain things have come to light. I think the main thing that has kind of like taking the internet by storm, which like in the beginning, like kicking off her like little book tour she's doing, is that her and Will Smith have been separated in 2016, which is kind of weird because at the Oscars, Will Smith is now famously known for telling Chris Rock to keep his wife's name out of his fucking
Yeah.
mouth. Not
Right.
not my separated partner's name out of your mouth. I believe his exact words were,
That's your
"Get
first
my wife's
wife.
name out your mouth." Um,
Yes.
and on top of that, they like the whole entanglement thing where she had an affair and he like kind of knew about it. I don't even really know the whole thing about it, but apparently that's
Yeah.
something that they both went on her Facebook show, Red Table Talk, and they had an open discussion with the entire world
Mm-hmm.
about the inner workings of their marriage. And I think that's
Yes.
where, like, just with the whole thing that kind of exploded on the Oscars, like she mentioned that she thought it was a skit until Will turned around. I was like, and no one believes that. Like, we all saw what
Yeah.
happened. At least this is my personal opinion. Like, I just don't believe her. I think that she maybe they have been separated, but I don't know. It just seems weird. Oh, you just decide to drop this information the week you're doing your book tour, or you just decided, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
relieve this deeply personal information about my life. I mean, regardless, they broadcast their whole life is broadcasted all over the internet, and I feel like it's just hard for me because I used to respect and love Will Smith so much when I was a kid, like Fresh Prince of
yeah.
Bel Air, Independence
Yeah.
Day, Bad Boys. Like in his book, he even talks about like how he wanted to be the greatest actor in the world, and, and
Actor.
and
Yeah.
to a certain extent he is. Like, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard now because all the limelight on him has nothing to do with his acting ability and or career. It has to do with
Yeah. It's
what
just his
his it's
actions.
just
Yeah.
it's not even his action. It's this woman who's, I guess, not his wife, his separated partner, is what
Mm-hmm.
she's revealing about their life. And like it just seems like in poor taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and like I'm reading some of it now, and yeah, that she said that I thought this was a skit. I was like, there's no way that Will would hit him. It wasn't until Will started to walk back to his chair then when I realized it wasn't a skit. Um, yeah, and I guess like there was trying to have like Chris Rock had tried to reach out to Jada Pinkett Smith, or maybe they had a conversation about it, or no, it was that's right, it was Chris Rock going to her backstage that night, like immediately
That's
apologizing
right.
and said, "Hey, that's uh, I did not mean that in poor taste." He apologized
Yeah.
instantly. To what Jada Pick was talking about in that interview. I saw a little bit of it. And she said that we're just gonna table this, and she kind of just brushed it off. It was like he was kind of say, "Hey, I didn't really mean that. I'm deeply sorry." And he was like, "We got a lot of things to figure out. It's not you." I believe, if I understood this correctly, she was saying it's more than the joke. It's a lot of things that's going on between us and stuff like that. And they kind of brushed it off. And from my understanding, it didn't seem like they spoke since then about the situation. And I know that Chris Rock had a comedy special not too long ago that I don't know what streaming service
It's
it
on
on. I forgot
Netflix.
which one it was on, Netflix. And I know he talked about the slap in that recent comedy special. And so yeah, it's just, to me it's kind of crazy that now we're approaching about a year and a half after that event, and it's still under the topic of discussion. Still a lot that's getting figured out. I think the main thing that we can deduce here, especially with Jada Pinkett Smith's most recent comments, is that it has a lot to do with where they are with their marriage right now. Um, are they still set? Are they considering they're still separated? And they just have a lot of work out, and it just seems like they're trying to. Hopefully, they're working on it. We haven't seen Will Smith out and about lately.
At all,
We
basically.
the
He
At all.
releases like
Yeah.
these random Instagram videos where he's doing like these weird edits, and like there's no, as public as this all is, there's like almost zero, there's like zero words from him pertaining any of this. And it's like, you don't have
Yeah.
to give it to us, but this
Right.
woman has made it the world's interest that we know the inner workings of your life. So now we all have. So
Yeah.
now, guess what? We all have questions. You're releasing this information. Well, guess what? When you say shit like that, you open yourself up for feedback, and we are all telling you
Yeah.
that this is not okay. Like it's unfortunate. It's almost like you feel bad for him.
Yeah. Excuse me, a little bit. Yeah, you do. And like I remember he came out with a movie last year called Emancipation. That was on Apple TV Plus. That was directed by Antoine Fuqua. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe Apple really promoted this movie at all.
Mm-mm.
It's still just sitting there. I from what I heard, he did a good performance in it, but this was filmed prior to what was going on. The next project that he is tied to is the Bad Boys sequel with Martin Lawrence, so he's still getting work, obviously. So I think the next movie we're going to see him in is the Bad Boys sequel. I'm not sure what the title is. It's just Bad Boys 4. But yeah, so we know that's in the horizon for him. But other than that, I mean, look, it's just like I agree with you. I used to respect Will Smith a lot more. Even just most recently, like we saw him in King Richard. We both believe that he deserved the Oscar for his performance. Shortly before that, we were just reading his book, and I thought his book was great.
Same.
A lot of insight on his character. And I just loved how the book was presented. And yeah, this is just putting a sour taste into this whole thing, and I just hope he can figure it out and he can, they can work something out, or if it's an official separation, but coming back out here and just making good movies again,
Exactly.
and just being the best person you can be after all this is over. But yeah, it's just uh, it's I feel like that on me personally, like I'm surprised she just brought this back up, but I think this just needs to be put to bed. You guys figure it out behind closed doors, and then when you guys are ready to whatever outcome that comes out of this, just put it back into your
Yeah.
work.
I,
That's how I feel.
so I agree with you, and I only have one more thing because when you brought up this book, you reminded me of something.
Sure,
In
sure.
the book, they talk about their relationship. I don't know if you remember. They talk about her 40th birthday and like how she didn't want all the attention, and they
Yes.
ended up break it like it was like a big break in their relationship. So in the book, they talk about their relationship.
Hmm.
Nowhere in the book do they mention going through a hard separation. In fact, they talk
Yeah.
about strengthening their relationship as a couple. So
Right. Right.
it
Yeah.
just seems weird, right? It just seems weird.
Yeah.
It's just very
It
strange.
just seems like it's almost like, yeah, we're separated, but we're still together, and we also have a family that we had to raise. So like there's that aspect of it as well.
You know,
Even though these kids they're grown now,
and they're
so
all super successful,
it is.
and so they're
Yeah. Yeah.
successful in
Yeah.
their own right. I
Yeah.
mean, besides their
That's true.
entire family life being broadcast to the entire world, but you
Yeah.
know, I don't know. I just it's not really news. It's kind of more gossip than anything, but
Yeah.
it's just something that's just worth mentioning. It's just very
Sure.
strange human behavior. I think that's why it intrigues me more than anything because like in this maybe this is part of the problem is like how certain people would when you grow up you look at certain like
Yeah.
celebrities and you idolize them. You put them in this light where you idolize them a little bit and you're like, wow,
Hmm.
that's something I want to achieve too. But then like you get to know them over the years, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if I would have done that.
Yeah.
Like, and then you
Yeah.
just start
And
to see like I guess you see like cracks, and then it's just like, oh, well,
yeah.
yeah, they're human beings too. But then like, what is it about that person that made you idolize them? What is
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Like why is it that you have expectations of these people who you literally have no idea who you are? But yet you
Right.
look to
Yeah.
them for something. Like what is that? It's just curious. Like what is that something? I guess it's the same way like people look at sports figures. Like if you're into sports, you know, you follow
Sure.
certain players that you idolize, and you just maybe because they look so they're at such a height of success, and you wonder, well, you know, they must have their life together. But you know, we're all
Yeah.
just trying
But
to figure shit
also,
out, I guess.
you make a good point. I think also part of it is this, like, we really enjoy what they're able, like, whether it's from their performance, the writing, the directing, whatever it was, they made you feel
Yeah.
something, and therefore it's like I want to feel that again every time I go to the movie. And I know, and there's a guarantee that when I see a movie when with this person in it, I'm gonna feel something for it. I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna cry. I'm just gonna be really excited because that charisma, what you were able to put on screen, the same goes for a sporting event. When these players are playing their best out there, and you're devoted to this team, and you are like for them, they're contributing to the success of the team, and you've been there since their beginning, and you do form this relationship, this story of what you want them to be for you. And because I feel like we build these deep connections just through a screen, when things falter like that, we're like, man, what happened? Like I I feel like in some cases like, oh, you're better than that, but like it's even sports. It's a performance.
Yep.
We're not 100% getting their real selves until they do that. Every now and then, a lot of people hide it better than others. A lot of people we see it in their true forms, like their performance and their selves are the same. And you can tell they're just good people around. Some people hide it better than others, but yeah, no, I totally understand. Like you have that connection with these actors or these sports figures or anybody that we kind of idolize because we felt something when they did something on
I
screen.
think I think as you were kind of mentioning, I think what it is for me is that you are someone who has decided, you know what, my life, I'm going to be in the
Yeah,
public eye. So what that means is that your life is on display for everybody to see. Now you can choose to keep parts separate, but there's certain aspects of your life that unavoidably are going to be public. Like who you're married to, who you're with, like people are going to be interested in that because of what we were just talking about. But I think
right.
um I don't know, like there's like because your life is public, like yeah, I don't have a right to tell you how to live your life, but since your life is public, I have a right to have my own opinion because I'm a human being,
Sure.
and that's just
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hear shit, and
Yeah.
that's just what we do. We are all judgmental human beings. As much as we all try not to be, we listen to shit, we hear shit, and we internalize it, and we put it through our filter, and then we spit out and think, and we have our feelings about certain situations, and it's just
Yep.
weird. It feels like, well, I'm not gonna get it. I think I'm done. I don't like I don't know her, so I don't really need to
Yeah.
have. I don't need to bash her personally. I just don't have positive feelings toward her. I think it just seems distasteful for
Yeah.
what the way that these things are going about. But if her and her family are all right with that, then you know what, live your life.
By all
By all
means.
means, live your life, girl. Sell your book. That's all.
Just sell your book. That's a good way to end it. Just, you know what, Pickett Smith, just sell your
Just
book.
sell that book.
Just,
People want to
just sell
know,
that
and
book.
just we get it. You're still in love with Tupac. It's very unfortunate that he passed away. We understand that you guys have a very deep connection, but you are married to Will Smith. Like you can't. You got to stop talking about Tupac. He is an amazing rapper. He was a poet of our time, and he was taken from us, and we understand that. But you also we need to stop talking about him like you're
Yeah.
married to him.
Hey, I mean, she's still with the Fresh Prince.
You're
It's just,
no, they're not.
forever
They're not,
always.
Matt. They're not. They're not anymore. Remember, they're not. They're not together anymore.
I forgot. I forgot.
They're separated since 2016, apparently.
2016.
Ah,
All right.
all right. You know what? Let's talk about some really good news.
Yeah, let's talk about.
I guess depends on how you look at it.
Well, I'm not sure if this is great. Again, you're right. Depends on who you're asking. Daredevil Born Again, we're talking about some nerd stuff now, is undergoing a major creative overhaul as Marvel Studios parted ways with head writers Chris Ord and Matt Corman, the creators behind COVID Affairs, that was on USA, and is currently seeking new writers to revamp the show. Ord and Corman will still be credited as executive producers, with only half of the 18-hour-long episodes having been shot prior to the beginning of the SAG-AFTRA strike. Marvel has also released the directors for the remaining episodes of the season. Some elements of the already shot material will be used going forward, but Marvel is looking to take the show in a new creative direction. According to the Hollywood Reporter, sources say that writers Ord and Corman crafted a legal procedural that did not resemble the Netflix version, known for its action and violence. Cox didn't even, Charlie Cox, who was playing Daredevil, didn't even show up in costume until episode 4, which is crazy, by the way.
Yeah, that's wild.
Kevin Feige, along with other Marvel executives, reviewed the footage and admitted that it wasn't working. I will say that, yes, this can be seen as a negative and a positive, considering that there is a part of me that would love to see a Daredevil legal procedural. I think that could be a fun concept, especially when there's 18 episodes that they have to put out. I think a decent wide range of what this show could be. But if it was lacking something that they knew that the fans was not going to enjoy, and on top of that, their latest Netflix shows, I'm sorry, not Netflix, their latest Disney Plus shows have not been hitting the mark. I think this is a good time to start with okay, we got to put out something new because we're losing them.
Yeah. I think this is great. I think this is great news. I mean, if Daredevil not showing up until episode 4, yeah, that's a problem. Especially when we just saw him, when we've already seen him be Daredevil in other things currently in the
Yeah.
MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Like the weird cameos that he has in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Where he like becomes her like little love buddy. Like,
Yeah, that's weird.
What is that? Yeah, that was a strange time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that there's a lot higher scrutiny on the TV shows. Like they're seeing that they're not, like you said, they're seeing that they're not working, and they're gonna make some changes. So
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm curious to see what direction. Like, and it seems them talking that it doesn't resemble the Netflix show is that they realize that worked for that character.
100%.
So that they need to bring that into that show.
Yeah,
so,
and I think it's also clear that this is more or less going to be a reboot of sorts, but we're utilizing the same characters. If we want to dive into the multiverse of it all, if we're still even going along that, we notice that we can have the same characters that look the same, but we're just getting an altered version of those characters. And I think it's great that Marvel is able to recognize that Vincent D'Onofrio, Charlie Cox, and John Bernthal were still the perfect casting for Kingpin, Daredevil, and the Punisher.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
And we also know that Echo is still a series that is completed, and it was supposed to be released this Thanksgiving, but they pushed it back to early 2024. So with that, that will be the next time we'll probably see some of these characters, and this could be like a is it a prologue? Is that before?
Yeah.
We'll get this.
Prologue is before, epilogue is after.
Okay, yeah. So this would be a prologue to the Daredevil series, which most likely will be pushed back because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. But I do see this as a positive note because if it isn't working, I'm tired of Marvel not working. Let's just put it that way. I need Marvel to work again.
They've been on a losing streak for quite some time now.
Have
you seen? I mean, we're gonna get into it in what you're watching, but have you started watching Loki?
I have not started Loki yet, and so far it doesn't seem like I'm missing much. I've
that
heard.
Doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews about it. People are enjoying it. People are saying it's okay. The fact that now it's funny because like with Ahsoka and like even Secret Invasion, I was getting like spoilers online. The fact that we're 2 episodes in, I haven't started it, and I haven't seen a word of it online makes me curious. It's like because at this point it's like, man, something got spoiled for me. Nope, nothing. So
nothing to report here.
Nope, all good here. 6 episodes of Loki season 2. We're almost halfway there, and nope,
not a peep.
Not a peep. I was like, damn, that's not a good sign for me. Like like that shows me that there is no urgency to watch it. I will get to it. Like probably by the end of this week, I might just do like a 3-episode binge. I know Megan's leaving out of town for work by next week, so maybe I'll just wait until then to start it because we're not watching anything else. So yeah, it's just, to me it's just like, damn, like Secret Invasion really took me out of it. There weren't like I'm on board for a lot of Marvel stuff, but like between Quantumania, that was like for me it was like the really start of it. I was like, ugh. That was
gross.
That wasn't great.
Not great.
And then you had like Secret Invasion. I was like, what are we doing, guys? What's going on? Like, I'm here for you. I'm gonna continue watching it because I'm in the bed, but like, I got one foot out of the bed now. Like, I might be getting off of it. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like I'm never gonna not watch the newest Marvel thing, but we really gotta start. Like, I think the biggest thing is that there's no clear vision of what is happening here. Like,
yeah,
the Quantumania was supposed to be the start of it. Like, I can give you the, hey, we're at a restructuring phase after Endgame, new beginnings, all these new characters. I got you, Marvel. I'm here with you. But when you tell me that Quantumania was supposed to be like, okay, now you're going to understand where we're going with the multiverse, and it didn't do jack shit.
Well, what I can say is that I could see what they were trying to do. Because what is it the director said about Quantumania? That Quantumania is important as Civil War, which we saw was not correct.
is
Nowhere near. That was nowhere near being correct.
it's false. That is
False.
100%.
Shut up. You sit down.
Sit down.
Because watch this fucking movie again and tell me what you think. You're wrong.
First of all, if it's like Civil War, where are the other superheroes at? No one. They're not nowhere there. Nope. Crickets.
Nope. Oh, did anything like really impactful? Did a main character die? No. He saved at the last second.
No.
So what stakes were there? None.
None.
Absolutely zero. I mean, the one thing we get at the end is Kang meeting, what did I call it? Kang Con.
Kang-Con.
We had Kang Con at the end where they all meet up. Oh, and by the way, we don't even know if we're going to use Jonathan Majors anymore because he's beating his girlfriend. So who knows if he's even still going to be Kang. We might just change him in the middle of the multiverse. Which, you know what? They might have to end up doing.
They might have to end up doing. And also, like, by the end of Quantumania, you're just, like, sitting there, it's like, okay, so when he comes back, shit's going to be different, right? Nope. Everything's the same. So, like,
Nope.
Okay, so this whole movie, aside from introducing Kang, has been pretty much pointless. Yep. Now you got it right.
Now, you know what will suck is at the end, at somewhere down the line, they go, oh, do you remember in Quantumania when this one random thing happened that seemed innocuous? Well, guess what? We just retrofitted, so that's like a major plot point.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. So like we basically finished writing the movie because, the whole movie in itself doesn't matter. So we have to have outside context to make it matter now. So this one little thing happening is really the kickstart of what's happening over here in the background.
Yeah, we
get the fuck up. Go somewhere with that.
Marvel, you need some work. You need some work.
It seems like they're starting in that direction.
Yes,
because between that shit and She-Hulk, and I think what really like set it off was James Gunn's exit. Like he basically like the way his exit and like giving us that perfect trilogy and go, all right, Marvel, see ya. I'm gonna go play with Batman now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go write Superman movies. Like you guys finish. I've done what I can do for you. Let me go show you. Let me go finish what I'm doing. Let me go kickstart and finish what I'm doing over here. Yeah. And then everything past Guardians, like, has anything hit how good Guardians was? Has anything even come close to it?
Well, so I will say this. If we're going into Marvel talk right now. Outside of Endgame, a lot of people say Marvel has not been as great since Endgame. I'm not doubting that, but we've had its moments. We had some good,
correct, I agree,
Marvel moments after Endgame. Two things I go to the most, and actually three. They gave us WandaVision, which was a great kickstart into the Disney Plus series. That was a great show. I also enjoyed Loki season 1, another heavy hitter, and I liked what they did with Hawkeye. Those three shows were pretty solid. They gave us Shang-Chi and Legend of Ten Rings. That was a great movie. That was a great movie to introduce the character.
I agree.
Yeah. You have Spider-Man No Way Home that made me cry twice. I mean, when a movie can hit me emotionally like that, I know other people have their issues with it, but I really enjoyed the movie. I thought that was top tier Marvel for me. And then also, and then you had Guardians, which was an emotional journey, had nothing to do with the bigger MCU on purpose. And so we've had its moments, but like what the biggest frustration is that where we are in the bigger picture moving forward with the MCU, have no fucking idea what's going on and what you're doing.
Yeah, like before, it just kind of just seems like we're just getting stories within the universe where like they're trying to set up for the next movie, but at the same time we're just like aimlessly walking in the desert. Like there's no like, it's like maybe we're getting talks of like Secret Wars, like they haven't even like Doctor Strange going into the multiverse like that. Like I don't know, I guess we're getting small snippets of it, but it's not enough to where the picture is starting to become clear.
Well, it's just not enough to make it feel like if I'm going to do like a rewatch and tie all these stories together, it doesn't seem like I need to do that. Because it's like I feel like if you're giving me like I feel like 5% of the movie is showcasing the future of the MCU, and 95 of it is just filler. Like if we're looking at the bigger picture of the MCU, and I feel like there were two movies that offered huge disappointments, which was Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that you pitched as these are the movies that are gonna give you answers to what we're planning here, and it just didn't do that. So now Like the Marvels is not going to do that. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was never going to do that. Guardians 3 was never going to do that. Spider-Man was never going to do that. So like, when are you going to do it?
Yeah. What
Like
do we have coming that's going to do that for us?
So I think Deadpool 3 is going to be another one of those movies where we're going to get another snippet of what the future is. And maybe Loki season 2 is doing that as well when it comes to the multiverse. These are the next two projects. Loki season 2 and Deadpool 3 are the next projects that we know are going to be dealing with the multiverse. And so with that, how big of the multiverse are we going to be diving into within these two properties to give us what's going to be moving forward within the MCU? Who knows? I think Deadpool is just going to be a fun ride through the Fox library of characters, and I'm not expecting anything more than that. If you so happen to give us, like, this is what we're doing in the MCU, bravo to you. But I'm not expecting that in this movie. I'm expecting just, like, Deadpool just screwing things up within the multiverse, diving into the other Fox properties. We're going to see Hugh Jackman, and it's going to be a fun ride. That's the movie I'm expecting. And if you give me something more than that, then I'm in for it.
And I think with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman being involved, and with Daredevil kind of going back to Daredevil being kind of going back to the drawing board, I think Marvel recognizes the issues their fans having, because I think I mentioned it when we had Sonica and Steven on when we reviewed Quantumania, that I think like we need to stop making excuses for Marvel. Like if it's bad, it's not good. It's just not good. Like we can still like Marvel and still hate some of the shit that they put out.
Yes, and I feel like we're getting to that point as well.
We've already gotten there.
We've gotten there.
We've been there.
Which is sad because they were putting out like heavy hitters, and again, and I said this before, it's hard to come off of Endgame. It really is. Like any other franchise, if it wasn't Marvel or superhero related, you would have ended there. You would have been like, congratulations, you did it. You gave us a satisfying conclusion to these stories. And then, but now you have a whole other group of characters you never even touched before. So, like, I get the reason why you continue, but you got to give us a reason why we need to stick around for it. Yeah. And so far, they haven't proved that just yet. You got the core fans, but you got to bring in the new ones.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
Right, I'm done now.
Are you done? Are you off your soapbox now?
I'm off of it. We're good. Well, all right, last story.
To round out the news, Michael Myers might be getting his own TV series. Why? Who knows? Because it wasn't enough that we fucking killed him. We had a movie called Halloween Kills where, spoiler alert, they throw him in a fucking meat grinder. Or a wood chipper. A wood chipper.
Wood chipper. It was Halloween Ends, by the way, that they...
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And then they ceremoniously carry him, and then all their hands just throw him in. And that's how the movie, quote-unquote, series ended. So... Guess what? Miramax has secured the TV rights to the Halloween franchise, which are controlled by Trancas International Films. A new Halloween series is envisioned to potentially launch a cinematic universe spanning more films and television. The deal marks a new chapter in Miramax and Trancas' partnership on the Halloween franchise, as both companies most recently purchased the successful Halloween trilogy. Blumhouse produced the successful Halloween trilogy. Blumhouse, who also co-produced the recent Halloween trilogy, is not part of the deal. So it seems like Blumhouse said, hey, we're going to close it out. If y'all want to do whatever afterwards, then fine. But now, my only thing is that if you've seen the end of the film, you know kind of what that film had a very specific theme that I think fits to what they're trying to do with this TV series. And if they continue on that route, then it's very obvious in what the next plan is. It's basically like the next generation. Like just however they can continue it, and everything will be in like honor of the memory of the originals. Like
sure.
So I get it if you're diehard and you're urging for more, but like, personal opinion, I've loved the Scream franchise. I love all the movies. They did a Scream TV series, and like Stev will tell you, we watched for like a season. He lasted longer than I did, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It became too much. I was like, this is not the same thing. Like I can't, like
Right.
this is, I just can't, I cannot with this. This is like, sometimes some certain things don't work in TV format that really work in movie format, or vice versa. Certain things need their mediums. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really see a lot of tension building in a TV series. What I see is like a lot of like wasted time trying to figure out who the killer is, or we're gonna spend time learning the inner workings of how to become the next Michael Myers, or I don't know, like whatever. There's a couple. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple of different themes and routes they can go down, but it just, to me, it just seems like it's too much. Like, why not come up with a series that's inspired by Michael Myers, not continue Michael Myers? Like, not everything needs to be franchised. Like, what happened to using things as inspiration for other things? Isn't that how
Yeah. And
creativity
they
works?
did. Don't we just steal things and call them something else? Isn't that how that
Yeah.
works? Um, but it's funny because like they said this was after a heated bidding war. So obviously, I think Blumhouse was within that bidding war to secure the TV rights, because right, wrong, or otherwise, I guess that Halloween trilogy was successful.
Yeah. Well, that's what
They,
that was
they
our.
probably
We were in that weird COVID time, and they were
Yeah.
they were releasing it. Didn't they release it on both, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they did. Well, the first Halloween movie was in 2018, so that was just in theaters.
Which is great.
But then yeah, which was great, and which I loved. I really liked that
Yeah.
movie. I thought Halloween was great. But then Halloween Kills and Ends was during the COVID times. They released both of them in theaters and on Peacock, doing the same thing with Five Nights at Freddy's. And so yeah, it's that those two were big disappointments. We reviewed Kills and Ends on previous episodes, and we can tell you that it was not great.
Not great.
And not great. And so it's just interesting that, you know, maybe David Gordon Green, who's coming off of The Exorcist Believer right now, and that movie is not hitting.
Not doing great either.
Not doing great either. No, it's not. So maybe it was just a direction. Maybe the director is just not, you know, getting the vision right. But even though it was making money because people enjoy the Michael Myers franchise, the Halloween franchise, but I agree with you. I don't see any reason why this needs to be a TV show. I think Halloween franchise fits well within its medium. I can't watch 30 minutes of slow walking to maybe kill a person every week.
Yeah.
That's not something that I feel like I want to do. I can do that within a 2-hour, 90-minute time frame, but not a 6, 8, 10 episode arc here. And like, to your point, the way the franchise was going, it does seem like they're setting up for a new generation. So, like, two questions: is this a reboot, and this is Michael Myers again, or are we going off of the films? Since these two production companies were part of the new trilogy, so are we just branching off of that and inspiring a new generation that could be taking stuff from Michael Myers? Or, like, I doubt we're gonna bring back anybody from the films. I'll be surprised if they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just seems like this is a cash grab. You know, we're just gonna continue to kind of squeeze this IP for what it's worth. I don't see any point into it. Like, you get, at least at the very least, give it time.
Yes.
Like, you just had this. Give it a beat,
Like,
before we start trying this.
like what are you gonna give us? Like, I either see a continuation or like Michael Myers early days. But then what is
Yeah,
that?
like
But
yeah.
that, what's that? Halloween 2? Like, we've already seen all that. We've seen all that. What do we need? We don't need to see anymore.
Yeah, and also this is like I think it's Paramount who's doing this. I could be wrong, but there's like a Friday the 13th TV series. I think it's called Crystal Lake, where the movies take place. I think they're doing like a prequel to how like Jason came about, and it's like, okay, sure. I don't need that.
But it's that capitalization of the telling of how the villain became the villain. Like
Sure.
I mean, as we've talked about it a couple.
We know that. They talked about this. We know
Exactly. You know, we've seen
Yeah.
it with Cruella. We've seen it with Maleficent.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Wicked. They realize that there's some capitalization of telling that people want to see how villains became villains. So
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully,
mean-
this is something worth seeing. Or either way, I just probably won't watch it.
I
haven't even watched
I
the Chuck.
probably won't
I haven't watched the Chucky show, but I've heard the Chucky.
I heard that was
yeah,
good,
I heard
though,
that was
yeah.
good. So you know what? I'd be interested to watch the Chucky series, so I could see what a successful horror TV series looks like. Well, I guess.
Apparently that's doing.
Well, I mean,
apparently it's doing.
we
well,
got
yeah.
American Horror Story, but I'm talking. I guess as far as I'm talking about, like these, like Chucky, Freddy, Jason,
Yeah.
Michael Myers. Like as far as that collective group of horror slasher killers.
Yeah. I guess Chucky's doing pretty well for himself after a string of like decent movies. Yeah, sometimes it can work. I'm not saying it can't. They done it with Scream, like you said before. Didn't work out. Did not work out. They're trying it with Friday the 13th. I'm waiting for the day that we're going to be talking about a Nightmare on Elm Street TV series or reboot coming soon. I feel like it's its due now. The Exorcist is trying to. I think The Exorcist also had a TV series, if I'm not mistaken, at one point or another. But yeah, now they're trying to do their own set of trilogies. Like, the horror genre, we're gonna get those repeats for those classics. But at least, like for example, like with Megan, we got something new and fresh earlier this year that really worked and can present its own icon. We're seeing it with Five Nights at Freddy's to see what they can do with that popular franchise. If you want to think of The Last of Us as a horror, like in that genre, spookiness, creepy creatures, like that's doing successful. So like, I feel like we're getting it, but like the horror genre is very good at giving us the classics as well as something new. So if that's the route that we're going with, then so be it. So
Yeah,
it's just something that we're probably not going to watch unless there's a good reason to. But yeah,
doubt it.
But anyway,
Just being honest.
Yeah. Anyway, after a lengthy news part, we skipped news last week, so we got a lot to cover. That is all the news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can find all the latest and breaking news on our social media channels, on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, and our Facebook and Threads page at Box Office Bingers. We post some of the news over there first, and then we come back in the show, and we'll talk about it. And that's what we do pretty much almost every week. But with that, we're going to move over to a fun segment we like to call Whatcha Watchin. So, Ernesto, we'll start with you. What have you been watching?
So, I haven't been watching much.
Okay.
I did start Jack Ryan. So,
nice.
John Krasinski. It's really good. And ironically, episode 3, it features a drone pilot, and the drone pilot is actually Arthur from Past Lives.
Nice.
It's the same actor. He plays the husband. I go, oh, I just saw you on a thing. So I mean that it's really good. Like it's your run of the mill, like, spy thriller trying to catch the bad guy and the terrorist and what we got to do to figure it out. But as far as like it's like a procedural like that, I'm here for it. It's based off Tom Clancy's novels. I also started watching White House Plumbers with Woody Harrelson and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Yeah, I've seen the poster for it.
Justin. It's a satirical drama about the Watergate scandal. It's set in the 1970s. It features. Oh my gosh, I just lost it. But it's about these two guys who run they called them the Plumbers. And what they did is they cleaned up shit for the Nixon administration, but they did a lot of dumb shit apparently. Like
Justin Theroux is
Theroux is his name. He was in the Leftovers on HBO.
Oh,
That's
nice.
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and it was actually kind of interesting to see him in something. It's like satirically comical like this. It's pretty funny. I just started. I'm only a couple episodes in, but it's pretty good so far.
Yeah,
and then,
I remember like going back to Jack Ryan. I watched the first season. I remember really enjoying it. I just never went back to it. Like with the plethora of things we have to watch. Like I just remember like that was a good season of television. I can't wait to watch the next one. And now it's over 4 seasons in. So
yeah, they're 4 seasons in right now.
Yep.
It's really good.
It's over
like,
though.
My wife, yeah, it's done. It's completely done. Yeah, my wife is waiting for me to watch the last 2 seasons because she's like, "Did you want to watch this?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "All right, I'll wait." And then that was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
so I just told her recently. I was like, "Hey, I just started Jack Ryan." So
great. Hurry up.
Oh, great! Thanks for joining us here in society.
Took you a while, but all right, I'll continue waiting. Don't you worry.
So something I'm reading, and then I've also just started watching. I just almost done reading the Batman storyline Hush. It's also an animated movie on Max. And let me tell you, this is I mean, it's already world renowned as a famous Batman story, but it is like rereading it. It is probably one of the best Batman stories there is out
Oh
there.
wow.
Like it's definitely up there. It's just very intriguing. There's a lot of you see a lot of dynamics explored with relationships. You know, specifically between Batman and Catwoman and Batman and Commissioner Gordon. More so in the comics, just because they explore more. They animated because the animated movies that are on Max, they're a part of like this like animated universe that they kind of built. They built like a DCEU animated one. David was trying to tell me it either starts or ends with Justice League War, but and then it strings into like a bunch of different movies that and they pick off like different important storylines. One of those is like they show the Flashpoint paradox. Under the Red Hood is one of them, which is a fantastic animated film, and Hush is also one of them as well. So like in the comic books, he hadn't even met Damian Wayne, and like Damian Wayne is in the movie, and like Damian Wayne is already like in the movie, and like certain character, like one of the villains that he fights is different in the book than it is in the movie, but it's still equally as good. But I would highly recommend to read the physical storyline because it gives you a much more deep and intricate story of what Jeff Loeb, the writer of Hush, was trying to get across. Plus, you get to look at Jim Lee's art. He's like one of the greatest comic book artists who's ever walked the face of the earth. Just really, really well done.
I always felt that those DC animated movies were always a good complement to the like comic books that it was originated from. So like
Absolutely.
I can understand how like because over the years they just became more and more popular of just like adapting great comic book stories within the DC universe and then putting them into an animated form. So you're almost basically getting like if you for whatever reason didn't want to read the comic book, you can get an animated movie about it and it would just be really close to the source material.
You know, as much as DC has struggled recently with their live action films, their animated films are on point. They're just so I don't know what it is about them. The animation is beautiful, the voice acting is usually really great, and then the storytelling itself is just really good.
Yeah.
It's just not cheesy, it's not kiddish. Like it really finds a way to kind of walk that line. Whereas like if you're a young adult, you'll really enjoy it and it also as an adult yourself, you can still find enjoyment in this animation.
Right.
So mad props to DC Animation. Like obviously I can't see what they do. I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the future moving forward. And then finally, I don't know if you did, Matt, I asked you to watch an episode of Black Mirror. I'm assuming you did not get a chance to get to it.
I did not. Sorry, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's okay. It was pretty wild. It's the episode with Aaron Paul and Josh Hartnett. It's season 6, episode 3. Probably one of the craziest episodes of Black Mirror I've ever seen.
Wow.
So I'm just gonna lay out like the basic premise. So there's these 2 astronauts who are up in a space station, and the world has the technology now where they can send their consciousness down to Earth into this robot. So they basically can send them. They go to bed in space, and they can wake up in Earth, and they're in this conscious robot. So, but the world is kind of split on how they view them. Like some people are okay with them, some people view them as abominations, and each of these men live very different lives, and it is crazy and very Black Mirror. It has a very Black Mirror ending.
Yeah.
Like very dark, very very dark ending, but what a crazy story. And then it's just great because they give you this story that's relied on this technology, but at the same time still were able to give you this very human story about these 2 different families.
Interesting.
And it's something that I really really enjoyed. I think they explore a lot of great themes in this episode. But it's like a movie. The episode itself is like an hour and 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it there because I don't want to give anything away. Like
Fair.
So if and when you want to start watching Black Mirror again, like watch this episode so that we can talk about it. You don't like I don't want to give anything away because like I feel like the less you know the better.
Sure.
And those who have seen the show know exactly what I'm talking about. Like there are some character moments that are just wild. that are just crazy. Like I want to talk to you about it, but there's just it's better. It's one of those. The less you know, the better.
Right, right, and that's always tricky, right? Because like you don't want, like you're so excited about it, but you just can't. You don't want to spoil it for other people. But yeah, I again, for some reason I've been sleeping on Black Mirror, and like during the pandemic I was watching a few of them, but just never. And those episodes were good too. Like I said, there was a few that I really liked in the earlier on. Some of them were all right, but then some of them really stood out. And what's great is that you can just kind of pick and choose if you really wanted to, like
Exactly.
of all that. But yeah, I will get to it and we'll have the conversation. I promise you.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
I know you are. Yes.
In like a month, I'm gonna check in.
That's fair.
And then like on the flip side, like the next episode, like after coming off that episode, they give you this episode that's like almost not Black Mirror. Like almost there was no Black Mirror like technology type thing that I was able to draw up. Like as far as like technology going wrong, it was more on it had to do with this one was featuring Zazie Beetz, and it had more to do with where she played a paparazzi and like kind of paparazzi culture and like kind of exploring a story through that.
Yeah.
But to me it was like more supernatural than it was Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And now maybe if they had explained some of the technology, then maybe I could have bought into like, oh, it's because of this this technology that's going to ride. But they didn't do that. So they left it open. So you're just assumed that it's like this supernatural thing that caused this thing to happen.
Right,
and all this crazy. And then all this crazy shit happens. But it does give you like this weird reality into just the culture of being a paparazzi and like what those people, like what their mindset and what their life could be like based off the writing of this episode.
So I think
I thought it was good.
I think it's safe to say that you're enjoying this season.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're inviting some deep thought from their episodes, especially with even the first two episodes are wild. I kind of mentioned it the first one. I felt like I did you a disservice because I shouldn't have said anything. I shouldn't have told you about it at all. But I was just too excited. So this time I'm going to hold my excitement back.
Okay.
Until you eventually decide you're going to watch this thing.
Fair enough. I appreciate it.
But we've actually only got one more episode left.
Okay.
So there's only 5 episodes in season 6.
Oh, okay.
But you know, when certain episodes are an hour and 20 minutes long, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
You got to take what you get. But I think other than that, that's all I got.
Okay. I've been chewing away at some other horror movies. I saw the new one on Hulu, No One Will Save You. It stars. Oh man, I forgot her name already. It stars. No One Will Save You. No One Will Save. It stars Caitlin Dever, who you might have seen her in Unbelievable and Booksmart, and she. I'm a little bit confused about her character, to be honest with you. But the biggest takeaway about this movie is that, and you can tell just from the cover of it, which Ernesto, I can show you here. I think it's safe to say that it looks like. Well, what can you take from that cover?
Alien abduction.
There you go. All right. So the cover tells you that, right? And then the whole movie, not a word of dialogue is spoken.
What?
And I feel like that was
like
that
Wall-E?
was the biggest takeaway from.
Well, not even like that because they do talk in that movie. But yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, and I don't know why, but they chose not to have any dialogue in this movie. So that's all I'm going to say about it. The movie was good. It wasn't great, but I just found that it was interesting that this was technically it's like a sci-fi thriller, a little bit of horror. And they were just doing all of these things under the impression of, like, they were doing everything with actions, not with dialogue. So you had to kind of really pay attention to what they were doing and try to introduce your own perception of what's going on in the movie in the midst of this alien abduction atmosphere. So it was interesting, to say the least. I also saw Friday the 13th Part 3. Mm-hmm. I talked to you that I saw the original Friday the 13th, and after research I was told, and I think everyone, because like Friday the 13th, I was interested, but like, I'm not watching all of these. No way am I watching all of these. So like, which ones are the ones to consider? And the world and the internet told me that you at least watch three because that's when he gets the mask. So I watched a recap on two, and then I watched three, and it was actually better than the original, in my opinion. I like I mean, it was still stupid. Like, don't get me wrong, it was it was still a little silly. But part three, he does get the iconic mask, and the kills are just way
Mm.
better. Like the movie is still slow and it's a little bit pointless at this point, but the kills are better. I was like, all right, Jason, you give me something to look forward to a little bit. You give me something here. Um, so like, there's that. I also saw Child's Play 2. I told you that I really enjoyed the first one. I feel equally the same about the second one. I think what they do with Chucky, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, it's really good
Yeah.
work. Like, as far as like the animatronic that they're able to use, and like, it's really, especially in the second one, I think he looks better in the second one he did the first one, and they're just it's that series is really doing it for me. I really like it. It's that campy horror-ish comedy, but like leaning more into the horror than less of the comedy, but it still works. And I like what they're doing so far. I'm having a good time with this franchise. So yeah, so having a good time with that. And then there were two other things. One, Megan and I watched all episodes of Jury Duty. Have you heard about Jury Duty?
David's been telling me about it. The with James Marsden.
It, yes, it is hilarious. Estevan had shown me it when I went to go visit him. I saw the first episode. Then when I came back home, I told Megan, I think you would like this. And the whole premise of Jury Duty, it's a mix of scripted and reality television, where there's this, basically you're following this group of jurors in this case. But what they tell you up front is that the case is 100% fake. Everyone in this is actors except for one person. So, so, so one person thinks it's real, and everything else is just fake with actors. And I think it's just a great showcase of these actors trying to go along with the situation based on this one guy's reaction that believes that this case is 100% real. And then there's just like all this crazy stuff that's happening that he's just buying into. Like, he's like, okay, this is strange, but here we are. And it honestly, it doesn't work if you don't have the right person to be the guy who's not in the know. And 100%, like, because at any point of this, he could have figured it out, and then the whole thing is gone.
Yeah, aren't you James
Right?
Marsden?
It just doesn't work. Right. Well, no, but he knows, like, Marsden is playing himself in this courtroom. So like, he's just a celebrity in here, but James Marsden is playing like a ridiculously like big asshole version of himself. And it's quite funny when you see him. It's like kind of overacting and like being obnoxious, and like he's like, "Oh, I'm a celebrity" type of deal, and it really works for it. But it's it's 30 minutes long. It's on, so Amazon owns Freevee, which is a free service. So like, unfortunately, I couldn't bypass the commercials, even though I have Amazon Prime. But I think for especially for you, Ernesto, I think it's worth the journey of these 8 episodes. And
Okay.
I think Hannah will like it too. It's like, it's an easy watch, and you just, the first episode, like, it just takes a minute to get everybody established, but once you get to know these people and you're in on the joke as much as they are, then you start being like, oh my god, how does he not know this? But yeah, so it's a fun time. Megan and I enjoyed watching it. And the last thing I watched, went back to the theater.
Okay.
Ernesto.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you know what it is. Um, and I teased it on our social media page on Instagram that I had the privilege to be among the Swifties, and I watched the Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. And Ernesto, as you know, Megan and I had been in a relationship for a very long time, and this was my time to kind of suck it up.
It's your
This
turn,
was
Matthew.
For every Marvel movie, for every movie she did not want to sit through as much as we watch movies in the theater, and I kind of dragged her to. This is the moment. This is the moment where, like, we're watching this together, and you're gonna like it. And I was like, I really don't have any. I can't say anything about that because I've seen you watch a whole bunch of stuff you didn't want to watch before.
Correct.
And it was like, I think it was like 3 hours long. It was a 3 hour concert. Um, and I'm gonna do a little show and tell. We got some merch, Ernesto. I think you'd be
Oh,
happy to see. Yeah, we got plenty of merch. I first like to show you the Taylor Swift Eras Tour's popcorn bucket that we have on display. It was a good deal. It was a 1989, which I don't know if it's an album that Taylor
yes.
Swift has, as well as the year she was born. So the combo that comes with this popcorn bucket, which I was told was not the best popcorn bucket, but it is one that Regal had. And AMC had the better merch because AMC was the official distributor of this concert because Universal's stupid, and I'll get to that in a little bit of a second. But we're doing some show and telling right now. The Taylor Swift Eras Tour Cup, which is pretty big. Now, I had 2 ices in it. They offered free refills, and with the 3 hour concert, damn right I got some refills on it. So definitely got some 2 worths of ices in here. Also, we got this little baton that if you can use during your concert if you so choose to, and guess what, it lights up, so we're all part of the team here. I'm gonna put this back in here. Oh, it's still lighting up. There we go. So we got that. We were also, this was at AMC. Megan specifically went to the AMC to get that. Well, the light up thing came in this tote. She really wanted this tote, so we got the official. Let me go back close to the mic. We got the official Eras Tour.
Look at that
tote bag that offered all of the concert dates that we did not go to.
You did. You went to it in theaters.
We went to it in theaters, and we have all the dates that was lined up, and all the albums in which she sung, all the songs from various albums in which she featured in her tour. So yeah, that was at AMC. Thank you for that and the long line that had there. I did not wait in the long line, but Megan did get her stuff, so good for her. Megan also, even though she did not trade with anybody, we also have the bracelets available that Megan had, featuring very different words on it. This one says Karma. This one said Midnight on it. Eras Tour. Yeah, she did spend a lot of time. She a little bit upset that she didn't trade with anybody, but you know what? So be it. That's a thing if you didn't know. That's friendship bracelets that people were passing around the tour. And also, if you bought a ticket, you were also complimented with a free mini poster.
Damn.
Look
T Swift, I mean, if anything, she's giving it. Look, she's that. Come see my movie. She's like, here's a bunch of shit. Like,
here's a bunch of shit. Here's a bunch of shit. We walked out of there as if I just went to the concert. And let me say this, Ernesto. Let me say this, right?
Okay.
I walked out of there not for nothing. So hold on, before I say that, if you go look online and you see the parties that were happening in these showings, was ridiculous. I am happy to report my theater was not like that. Thank God, because we were off. I was off Friday night that we could have seen it Friday night, and I said, Megan, I am not watching this movie on a Friday night. I am not doing that. I will watch this movie with you, but it's not on a Friday night. I am not going to be sitting there with a whole bunch of T Swift fans just going crazy. I'm more than happy to watch this concert on the big screen, but I do not want to be like I don't want to be in the pit. I don't want to.
You should have did it for the podcast.
I know. Should have did it for the podcast. I did not. We did not do that. We went to a Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and there were 20 other people in that theater, and we all behaved and sang in our seats and did little dance moves if you so choose to. But Megan and I had the whole row to ourselves, so that was nice. Everyone was respectful in our theater, which I very much appreciated.
Well, people weren't singing along. Was the theater?
Was
the theater getting loud? Like people singing along? None of that.
Not the theater wasn't loud. I heard a few voices down there like singing along, but it wasn't rowdy.
It's like, leave it to Taylor. Hush.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. This is her tour.
This isn't person sitting on the second row tour. No, it's Taylor's.
It's Taylor's era. It's not your era. It's her tour.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this, right? After sitting there for 3 hours, I did come out of it enjoying it as more than I thought I was going to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way. But I walked out of there with a different perspective. Now, by no way am I a T Swift fan.
I don't know.
If I've got all the merch to prove
yeah,
it,
exactly.
But I will say I walked out of this with a different perspective of what this concert meant to people who enjoy Taylor Swift. And I compared it to two different things that I think, and we've talked about this on our show a lot, And I think it could be something that people who don't understand, maybe this can further maybe getting an explanation of what this meant to fans of Taylor Swift and her tour and her music. First things first, it's very similar to people who loved Hamilton.
Ah,
At the time,
that
Hamilton
makes sense.
was one of the biggest Broadway shows of all time, right? And the only way you can watch it was if you went to New York and you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting yourself into that theater to see the first run cast and to see it just live in person. All summer, I've been trying to see Megan. Megan has been trying to get tickets to the show, and all the people who were like all the crowds that had formed, and people were literally outside of the stadium, in the parking lot, in the adjacent area of where the concert was, and just having their own party because they couldn't get inside that theater in that stadium. So for anybody who could not get themselves into to see the concert live, for $20 you can go to the theater and have that experience the same way that Hamilton was available on Disney Plus. You can have that up close experience that you are never going to get even if you were in that stadium. Like you get the polished, highly produced version of this concert where you're not missing a moment of the best stuff within that concert. And the same thing with Hamilton. You got an up close, highly produced version of that show that you were never going to get if you saw it live. And you get different, you get definitely get a different appreciation for Hamilton if you saw it live, like any other stage performance and any other concert that you might go to. But when you see like this highly produced version and you still feel the same way as if you went to that concert, hey, at least you got to see it. At least you were part of something that you might not have been privy to. So there's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it, which I did not realize, and obviously it makes sense given the title, the Eras Tour, this concert spanned 17 years of her career. So she literally went through all of the greatest hits from the various albums that she has put out within the last 17 years. So if you are a huge Taylor Swift fan and you just want the greatest hits and the highlights of her career, that's what this concert was. And she played like some albums she only played one song, other albums she played like 4 or 5, and you just got the greatest hits. And like there were some like they had their down moments, but the other moments like I was there like yeah, I like this song too. Like I was never not a Taylor Swift. I mean, I guess I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I do like some of her songs,
Yeah,
and they
they're
are
catchy.
upbeat and they're catchy. Yeah, they're catchy.
Until the radio
So like
plays it out and you don't want to listen to it anymore.
exactly. That's a good point. But yeah, I really enjoyed Megan enjoying herself because she was really into it, and also because we had the whole road to ourselves, didn't feel like we were not able to talk through it a little bit, and we were also nerding out about the production value. She put on one hell of a performance.
Yeah, that's what I
In
hear.
that
It's not just her up there singing. It's like an actual stage. It's like a stage show.
It's the crazy stuff that goes on in that stage is wild to me. Like she put on a show, and I heard that her concerts were lasting 3.5 to 4 hours. We got a 3-hour version of a highly produced concert. So with all of that, right? And she's also breaking box office records. I believe she was very close there you go. She was very close to becoming the highest grossing movie of October. I think that title still stands with Joker, but it's very close. I mean, you see it right there. $96 million domestically, $32 million internationally, $128 million worldwide. You can't deny her popularity. That all that money was with little marketing, and she only announced that this was coming out 6 weeks ago.
How crazy
There
is
are
that?
movies. There were movies that have been announced years ago and cannot produce that type of money.
Look at The Exorcist. Literally, they were on her release date. So it's not
Yeah.
for lack of people being available during Friday the 13th to go see a movie. It's just that this was the thing that was going to bring people out, and obviously numbers don't lie. Just this opening weekend, 128 million worldwide. I mean, even that's a pretty good number for international.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you look at the domestic distributor, you see AMC Theaters. I was going to mention that a little bit. From what I read, Taylor Swift first reached out to Universal saying, hey, I have this final product of a movie. This is my tour, and I want to put it out there, and I'm going to you guys to see what you can do for me for distributing it. And Universal came back with terms that she thought was not good for her. Like, they wanted a big cut out of it, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go right to the source. The source. AMC ended up giving her a great deal, where she's probably coming out with it, making
More.
a good percentage of those dollars. And guess what? All 96 million of that also went, not all of it, but like that also went to AMC. So like, so like AMC gets a big check out of it. A lot of people went to the theaters that weekend in a market where it didn't seem like a lot of people were going to go to the theaters this October.
Yep.
So it was a huge win for movie theaters. It was a huge win for Taylor Swift fans. It was a win that obviously spanning into more of these. Shortly after Taylor Swift announced hers, Beyonce said that her tour is going to be on her tour is going to be available into theaters. I just want to get the name of it real quick. I believe it's called Renaissance.
Yeah, it's a Renaissance.
Yeah, Renaissance. Let's see. Self. I just want to make sure I got all the right information here. Yeah. So Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. She's also producing. It's the same thing, a highly produced version of her concert, and it's going to be available in December 1st in theaters for you to watch it, about 2.5 hours. And yeah, at this point, why the hell not?
Yep. More of a reason for people to come out to the theaters. It doesn't have to be a movie, but
right.
You can, let's keep alive the movie theater experience. And you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. A concert movie is a great way to show that. Instead of maybe showing like a movie about the concert, show an actual like a live concert that's produced the way she produced it. I'm here for it. I'm here for anything to keep the movie theaters alive. I'm here for.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so with that, walking out of it, I got a lot out of it that I didn't expect I was going to, and I explained all of it. But I think the biggest thing was Megan had a great time in that seat, and I like going to the theaters. So that was like that was something that we were able to do together under the medium that she preferred watching. It was a moment where most of the time she's in the theater for me, but this time I was in the theater for her, and she was having a good time. And then she compared to, she's like, "Is this how you feel when you come out of the theater?" And I said, "Not all the time. There's a lot of times where like I just watched a piece of shit." But yes, the goal of going to the theater is walking out of there feel like you just experienced something.
Yes.
And you felt something about it. And yes, that's the love I have for going to the theater, and I'm very happy that she was able to get that from that experience.
Good.
So
that's great.
I have nothing bad to say about this tour, and it's probably going to continue to stay at number one, maybe up until the Marvels. Like Taylor Swift is going to be owning that box office game for the next 3 weeks, easy.
Oh, 100%, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. But with that, the movie theater experience, go do it, people. It's a fun time, for sure. Especially if Taylor Swift is telling you to go do it. Why not? Go do it. And also, it's crazy that similar demographic had 2 of these this year, with Taylor Swift and with Barbie. So, I don't know. Maybe market your movie differently. Get that crowd back into the theater, because they come in droves. So, just saying. But anyway, with that, we're going to be moving along from our What You Watchin segment and into our spoiler review of the week, which is Past Lives. A little bit of this, excuse me, a little bit of a disclaimer. At the end of last week's episode, we said this was going to be our foreign film of the month, and after further reviewing this film and also kind of being a little bit negligent on our part about it, a little bit maybe naive, this movie is not a foreign film.
Yeah. This
movie is made by A24, distributed by A24. It's an American film, but the thing that confused us until further research is that this movie is, I would say, 80% spoken in Korean.
Correct.
So you are reading, like you are, watching subtitles. The majority of this movie is in Korean with a little bit of with English dialogue. So it was easy for us to get confused about like thinking this was going to be a foreign film, but behold, it is not. It's an American film, so we can't really call it our foreign film of the month. But as far as the Oscars are concerned, it is a high contender to be nominated for Best Picture, among other awards. And so, Ernesto, I guess that's the main conversation we're going to have about, is this movie and your thoughts worth in the Oscar conversation?
Oh, I would have to say absolutely. Like it was. I was surprised at how much I actually liked this movie, because it's a romance, and those are truly hit or miss for me. But I think it offered. Yeah. I think the movie had a lot more to offer than just the romance. I mean, It's beautifully crafted. It makes you think about love and loss and like what these choices in our lives do, where we get High Young and Nora, where they meet at different points in their lives, and where they're at in their lives, it's like they're not able to connect the way that they would like to connect. You know, when they're young, Nora's gonna she's moving, and then when they reconnect 12 years later, from him trying to find her a couple of months prior, and her talking to her mom and thinking of him and looking him up. And so then he went from this boy in this village to then 12 years later, now he's this face on a screen who they can't like, they're inescapable, like they're just so intertwined once they get connected, that they had to cut themselves off because they were losing focus in their careers and the things they wanted to achieve in their life. And and letting that go, they were able to reconnect at the end of the film together, where he actually came to New York and he got to see her at this final stage in her life. And it's kind of an exploration of like past love, and something they talk about in the movie is inyan, and talking about people's connections with each other. I liked it. I mean, I thought it was interesting to see like how their relationship evolved, but it also evolved with them. I mean, they even talk about at the end of the film how even when they re-met when they're in their 20s, when most people who are in their 20s consider themselves to be adults, they recognize that they were still babies, and that they were still growing and learning, and that they still had a lot to figure out in their lives. But I mean, general thoughts, like I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was really good. I actually really enjoyed the way the score kind of complemented the film during certain aspects. What about you?
To me, at first glance, it was a little bit of a slow burn, in the sense of like I was trying to figure out what this movie was trying. Like, is it gonna be more than a romance? But I mean, it really, in a way, I feel like at the end of it, like most like kind of like these movies have that they do, like maybe in the moment I wasn't maybe understanding and just trying to pick up the pieces, but by the end of it, it just lingered in my mind a little bit longer than most other movies.
Agreed.
Like I was just trying to put together what the meanings were, what the themes were, what you were trying to tell the audience, and it was actually challenging a lot of things. So like by the end of the day, like I did enjoy what I got something out of it, and I did enjoy some aspects about the film, even though I did feel like it was slow, but it was something that had to build. You had to see their connection throughout the multiple years to then see where we kind of end up by the end of it. And I know it's kind of hard to even say that this is a romance because they were never together.
But
Like
they were
just,
though.
they had this.
They did have a
They had a
relationship.
connection.
Yeah, there was a deep
Yeah.
connection. There was definitely a deep connection within them, and I think the film explores that through this concept that they kept bringing up of inyan, this like Buddhist belief that
Yeah.
people who are designed together will eventually find each other regardless of the obstacles in their way. Um, you really showcase that. I mean, have you ever been around somebody even before you meet them, and
Right.
you have a sense like, hey, like you ever feel like you meet somebody like, don't I know you from somewhere? And then like
Yeah.
whether you've seen them somewhere before or not, like there are these times where you see people in your life where you 100% don't know them, but you have a sense that there's like an energy about them that you connect with. That's like the best way
Right.
that I can describe that. And I think it's an exploration of that, but obviously on an elevated manner, like maybe like a best friend who you happen to also have feelings for through certain points in
Right.
your life, and it just never really quite worked out. So then, but you guys maintained friends, but there was always this thing in the background that you both of you wanted to explore, or just to see
Right.
where it went, and just to see what that could manifest into. But what I liked about it is that they showcase that, but I think a lot of times in certain people's lives is when they recognize that, they think it's a for sure thing, and then they latch onto it, and then they force it, and then that becomes like a bad thing. Whereas
Yeah.
what I liked is that they each when they got to that point, they each recognize, oh, we're not at this point. We need to back away, and if we're meant to be, then we'll come back to each other. Like I liked how they
Right.
were both understanding of that, for the most part.
Yeah, and For the most part, and I honestly, one of the the key moments in this movie for me, because, and I think I'm glad that they brought it up, and I wasn't expecting it, but I definitely was thinking it, was when Nora and her husband were like laying in bed, and he was like, I'm the villain of this story.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm in the way of their love story. And like any other movie would have could have done that in a way. Like I was like, oh yeah, it's like here's this white guy who literally did nothing is in the way of this like this relationship of someone that is in your childhood. Like and you it's almost like a lost love in a way. Like there was
Yes.
always a connection there, but we never really did anything with it. But now he's coming to see me and is gonna reignite feelings and maybe I'm making the wrong decisions and like luckily it wasn't any of that. It was
But
like
it
it
also, but it kind of
recognized,
was that. But it also was that. Like there, I like
yeah,
for me, there was always that tension there between them,
yes,
right?
yes, there
The
was,
tension was always
especially
there.
especially toward the end of the movie where they were solely speaking Korean to each other, and he was just awkwardly sitting in the bar while they are literally like he's professing his like what could have been, and then
Yes.
like he's just chilling, and I was like, damn. First of all, this guy has the balls to have this conversation right in front of her husband.
Incredibly
Um,
inappropriate.
incredibly inappropriate, but he knows he can safely have this conversation because he can understand him, and like he could pick up maybe a few words, but also deep into within the husband, he knew that they were having some sort of conversation, and then and later he even apologized to is like, hey, I'm sorry we spoke solely in Korean, but you know we're gonna stop doing that, and he was like. It's fine. It's okay. You guys haven't seen each other in a while. I understand it. He was being very polite about it,
I
but
don't know
like
if I'd have been that polite. He's
I'm
a
like,
better
hey
man than
man,
me.
like if you're like and like if you guys were out all afternoon, you couldn't have that conversation then. You got to do it like right now.
I know, right?
Um,
Seems extreme. This
um,
seems extremely personal. It seems like a conversation.
yeah,
It's like, what would our life have been like if our Inyan, if we were supposed to be together in this life? It's
yeah.
like, buddy, she's with me though. Like, it's like, hey, hey, over here, over here. You turned your back to me, but yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm married. You see this ring? We got married.
He just comes around the middle. It's like anyone more drinks, everybody. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here.
Hey, honey. Hey.
Hey, yeah.
Mwah. Fuck face.
I think to his credit, he was kind of just being really respectful in a way to what this was because he trusted his wife enough to be like, there's nothing like she's. They even said it again when they're in bed and they were like it's not like you're just gonna walk away and leave me with that. It's like I think he understood the situation and I think he respected. I'm assuming what the closure was by the end of the scene.
Mm.
Like the closure that they had by the end of it. It was like at least we both acknowledged that there was something there, but it was just never at the right time. It was never at the right moment. And I like that even again, taken away from it, that when they were after 12 years after she left and they were having these conversations online and through through like video conversations and she realized that there was a decision that needed to be made. She was kind of getting in her life, in her eyes, were like getting caught up in the past, and she didn't want to continue on that road anymore. She wanted to move forward, and instead of living in the past, she wanted to live and move forward with the life she already had here, which I think she was also noticing that he wasn't willing to commit
Yeah.
to seeing each other like in person, and I think he was over. I think she was kind of like, well, if he doesn't want to come over there and I'm trying my best to go over to Korea, then what are we doing here? And that's a hard decision to make when you feel like there's like a real connection there.
And what's really interesting about that point is that that's a point that was brought up very early in the film, like almost like
It was.
pretty much at our halfway point when what ended their reconnection the second time. And then once she was, what was really beautiful about that is that once she was able to let that go, like immediately after she meets her husband, and then she falls in love
Yeah.
with him, and he goes on, he never found love. Now I mean that, but then
Right.
like I feel like they're trying to tell, and this is something like now that I'm talking it out loud, like I felt like they were trying to tell us something about him. And I don't know if this pertains to Korean culture in general, and I think it does, because she makes it a part of her conversation with her husband to say, oh, he's just so Korean. He's just very Korean. Like, there's Korean Americans,
Yes.
but he's like Korean Korean. Like, he still lives at home with
Yes.
his parents, and he does this and he does that. But like, they just made him to seem very lonely. But yet that he
Yes.
knew exactly what he wanted out of life. He wanted her, but he needed the closure of seeing her. I think for her closure was that midway point, and then I think
Yes.
later on was his closure point. Now that I'm thinking, now that I'm kind of talking it out loud, like, it seems like her point at the middle of the film, that was her saying, okay, like, this, I know that this is not something that I can pursue because this is going to interfere with this. Whereas he was like, as long as I get to New York, then maybe there's still a chance. And then once she found out she was married,
Right.
then I think it became, well, I love her so much that I need to go see her in order to I need to have this closure. So I need to go see her, and I need to see where she is in her life. And I think that's what that scene at the end, that bar scene at the end, was really trying to encapsulate. Like,
Hmm.
this is his closure. Like, that's the reason why, as awkward as it was for Arthur to be there, it was important for him
Right.
to be there, so that, because Arthur is a part of him, like, really coming to terms with his closure. And then it really makes sense in the end when they're saying goodbye, where it almost was like this lingered goodbye, as like this was the
Yeah.
true final goodbye of their life. Like, after this is like, this is it. Like, you will become a part of my past life. Like,
Right.
like, this is not this, we're not going to see each other. We're pretty much never going to see each other. Like, Matt, what do you say when you say goodbye to people at work?
Oh.
This is funny. This just reminded me of this. So when me and Matt
Yeah.
used to work, at Channel 2 with me, when we had a friend who worked in our department who left. He goes, "Bye. I'll never see you again." Or something to that effect.
Yeah, I did say that. And to this day, so never seen her
But
again.
but it's not for you feeling ill will towards that person. It's just that
No.
you recognize that you are both, like, that person is no longer going to be in your life path. That unless you physically
Correct.
seek each other out, that this is going to be the end. This is going to be the end for you.
Right. Right. And like, we worked well together, and then you moved on to a different path, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Like, it just, like, some people, well, you have this phrase all the time. Some people stick around for a short
Oh,
time. Not
some people
well,
are
yeah,
some
what's that
people
phrase?
are around for a season, and some people are around for a reason. Like, some people
There you go.
choose to stick around. I mean, look at you and me. Like, we were friends.
That's right.
We were friends in school, and then we've stuck around together through all these years. Whereas people who we used to talk to then, like, I couldn't even tell you what they're doing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And not that I feel
No,
ill.
you're right.
Same thing. I feel no ill will towards them. It's just that they're just not in my life path. Whereas Matt, you and me
Right.
have inyan, because even after you left, we are still connected with over 8,000 layers of inyan. Maybe not
Yeah.
8, because 8 means you're married. So I guess maybe like
Yeah.
6 or
6,
5 or
yeah, what's
6.
6? I know, but I obviously at this podcast, because we started this. Well, we started this when you started working. When I moved to the mornings, when I was working with you directly.
And that's
Then
this
we
podcast.
started.
Let's even take
Yeah.
it further back as to our show that we
Yeah.
had at UCF. That was the true begin. That was like the preamble to
Yeah.
this podcast.
Yeah, and now again we're 190 in. That says something.
Yeah.
Says something. We at least at the very least, if no one's listening, we enjoy doing it, whether people are listening or not. So.
And if anybody's counting,
And also,
if
yeah.
anything, we have 190 layers of inyan.
That's
so
right.
Every
There you
episode,
go.
adds another layer.
Well, also there's a few episodes that we didn't even include as episodes. So maybe 195.
That's true. And plus all our Beyond the Credits episodes.
That's right.
Like, we are connected for life, Matthew.
At this point, and for any reason, if we ever parted ways, like, there are still probably a lot of episodes that prove that we were connected in all these different ways as well.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, but to your point, I also like the like, I think the ending was, like, for me, the true climax of the movie. That's when, like, all of the heart was poured into, and a lot of great dialogue was having in between them. And one of the lines that they said, like, it's not enough to satisfy your ambition, and he said that to her, knowing that, like, you're the person that leaves. You left Korea, like, not under her choice, but her family left to have a different life in America, and then she left what they had over video calls, I guess through Skype,
Mm-hmm.
12 years before that. And so, like, she knew what basically, kind of like what he was explaining, like, she knows what she wants. And I was at one point part of it, but then I wasn't. Like, I
Mm.
understand that I wasn't part of it. And also, he could have, at any moment, if he really wanted to, could have went to New York. But also, that was not part of his path. We thought that he was leaving at one point to go to New York, and then it shows that he went to China to continue furthering along his schooling and his career. So he made a choice there that was best for him, and not trying to appease going to New York and maybe starting a life with her. That was
Mm-hmm.
they both had that decision. Um, the other line that was there, um, oh yes, this was another big line. The person you remember doesn't exist here, but that little girl did exist. She's not sitting here in front of you, but it doesn't mean she's not real. And I think that's also a great line, that the person that you're feeling for right now did not exist. I mean, sorry. The person that you're feeling for right now was at one point real. And whatever this was real. And I think that was really important to recognize, that like, her telling him that your feelings are valid, but just also recognizing that person that you're feeling for does not exist anymore. You're
Exactly.
in front
Yeah.
of you. You are dealing with a new person, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just that's just strong dialogue. That is
Not
just
even,
strong
and
writing.
it's not even so much as a new person as where she's really signaling to grow, just growth in
Growth, yeah,
general. Like, how many of us still feel like a little kid, like you're still like the little kid inside, or you're not the person you 100% present yourself to be, but you make yourself out to be that person.
right,
So you may not be that person, but that person still, there's still a part of that person that is a part of you, because you wouldn't be who you are without having to be that person.
right,
I mean, that's part
exactly.
of the steps of life, you know?
And that past version of yourself, that person in the past, did at one point was real, and was going down the path. And that's just, I mean, that's just life in general. Like,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, you could have even seen this movie, and honestly, very similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once, to some degree, where you have these different versions of yourself that could have been, like, strung off into being this or being that or being this. But, like, you played the what if game, and that's what they ended up doing when they were kind of going back and forth. Is like, we could have done this, and we could have had children, and we could have had this different life with each other, but it just wasn't the life that we were meant to have. And
Mm.
also, it's also signifying that maybe the life that they could still have in the future. We don't know that something like that could happen. But at this moment, and where the movie ended, it showed that they are now no longer going to be a part of their lives. Like, this is the closure that they needed, and specifically he needed it by the end, to showcase, is like, you're living a good life, and I'm happy for you. I just wanted to see if there's anything still there. And in a way, there is something still there, but just not what I wanted. It's just not the same thing that she wants. Um,
Yeah, or not what I thought it was,
right, and
or
not
not what I thought it is anymore.
yeah, and I think you made a good point of, like, feeling loneliness, and I feel like his loneliness and his desire for something that was in the past, and the many possibilities of what could have been. That's what I felt like his character embodied. It was this lonely person that just didn't let go of the past 100%. Like, there were moments, obviously there were big gaps. There were 12 years and 7 years, but obviously within the 7 years, he really held on to that. And I think also part of him was never letting go, because he even had that conversation with her under the bridge, which was, fun fact, Meg and I visited that bridge. We were also under that bridge. So literally, I'm watching this movie, and I was like, "Hey, we've been there. Hey, we did this.
Hey,
Hey,
I
hey."
also I also thought so. I thought it was interesting that when they were having that scene and they were talking in the background, there was a couple like making out and
Yeah. Oh my
like
God,
a
I
couple
wrote that
together
down.
in love.
I
I
wrote.
was like, how weird. I was like, how weird is that? They're literally talking about relationships and being together, and there's this literal loving couple in the background,
Yep.
right in the back, right in direct background
Yes.
for us to see at that bridge at the same time there. I said, it's obviously there for a reason. There's some sort of symbolism tied into that as well.
And they were, like, full on making out, like, it to the
I was
point
like,
where
they're
they're
going
going
at it.
they're going to town. Like, it's a point where it was distracting. I was like, oh my God,
Like
what's
he
going on
is
over there?
really going for it.
Jesus, sorry. Like, he
Well,
had a
maybe, well,
room use.
maybe that, Well, maybe that in itself is the message of
Right.
how captivating and how, like, regardless of whatever's happening, if you see somebody in love, kissing, and PDA,
Sure.
like you're immediately drawn to it, no matter what else is happening
That's
in
fair.
frame. There's some there. I mean, that's my takeaway
Yeah.
from it. I mean, I'm sure the director has a specific reason. It just seems way too random to be
Yes.
there.
Yeah, I
I
agree with
also
you.
like another thing that kind of brought brought my realization that he was feeling loneliness is that I don't know if there was more than one scene, but there's one specific scene where he's on the train and there's another couple where they're just
Yes.
lovingly talking to each other about their day and kind of just playing around, and he finds himself mesmerized by like just their conversation. Like to me, I was
Hmm.
like, oh, he's yearning for what they have. So that has to
Absolutely.
be a part of what's going on between him and Nora.
And I also feel like that again, going back to the conversation they have under the bridge, they were talking about how that he was with somebody
Yeah.
and that he wasn't they were still in a relationship together. They were just separated for the moment. Like they were just not, they're parted ways for the time being, but they're still technically together. And she brought up as like, "Are you gonna marry her?" It's like, "Well, that's what she wants." And it's like, "Well, well, then why don't you do it? If you guys have been together for so long, why don't you just, I guess in this case, propose?" And I feel like his feelings for Nora was stopping him from doing that because maybe he felt that there could be a better
Mm.
love out there for him that was with Nora. And then he decided to go all the way out to New York, calling it for vacation, but really just to see her. And kind of realizing that, okay, this, what I came out here for is not to find love again, but to understand that this is not going to be. And maybe that interaction and that time that he had with her was the closure that he needed to maybe solidify the relationship he had with the other woman, and maybe at the end of the day maybe propose to her and
Yeah.
kind of maybe feel happy for himself that he himself wasn't allowing to get he wasn't giving himself happiness or wasn't allowing himself happiness because he was hung up on the past, and therefore it felt loneliness and this desire for something that I think deep down he knew he wasn't going to have anyway, but he figured, let me just at least give it a shot to see if there's anything still there.
Yeah.
And I think in a way he did get that answer. I think they both recognize that there is something there and there was something there, but just the timing's now not right anymore.
Yeah, so it's almost like love isn't enough. Like literally,
Right.
like for you to be in love with somebody, like the actual stars have to align. Like it's more of than just your connection. For you to actually build a relationship and want to build a life with somebody, like
Right.
there's way more that's involved than what you feel towards a person. Like that's the clear message that at least that I'm getting from it. I also thought it was interesting that we don't get a definitive ending on him. From her,
Right.
we get a general understanding that she is moved, and then maybe because she's the main character, but he's not. But I felt like we spent a lot of time dealing with what's going on with him internally.
Hmm.
Whereas with her, we kind of already know she's in this torn place where she's being revisited by her past life, her past,
Right.
somebody who like a childhood love, and then she's already with this man who she's literally married and built a life with together. And now, what would have made the movie a little bit more complicated, and I now saying it out loud, I kind of understand why they didn't do it, is if they had kids. I
Right.
think if they would have had kids, he probably never would have come to New York because like he even said like I don't want to break up a marriage, but like for to add a kid in there, then it's like, well, now I'm like intervening within a family. It just seems like
Right.
even a further step too far. So now saying it out loud, I understand. I can see why they didn't include her to have any kids at that point. But you figure after
Yeah.
being married for 12 years, like that's something that would have come up. You know what I mean? Like they
Sure.
didn't even mention
Absolutely.
it. Nowhere in the movie was it mentioned, but it didn't need it. It didn't need it
No.
for the themes they were trying to get across. I felt like maybe they probably would have overcrowded the film.
Yeah, and I think they really just wanted to focus on the relationships between the two characters, and I think that was a good move on their part.
Yeah.
I think also what a strong um, director debut for what was her name again?
Celine Song.
Celine Song. The fact that kind of right out of the gate, not really having a lot of either writing experience. We saw that she was a staff writer for Wheel of Time season one. Definitely not a romance by any means.
No.
Um, and she comes right out of the gate with this very personal, intimate story that I read a little bit about and said this is loosely based on her life immigrating from Korea to America, dealing with that and like the complications that you have with your past as well as what your future is, immigrating from another country and trying to live a life in America, but also having this grand history that's within your lineage that you have to kind of respect and understand as well, and the things that came with that. I thought this was a great directorial debut for her, and I very much look forward to see what other stories she has in the future. Um, as well as the last thing that I kind of want to bring up is the cinematography. Man, that movie
Beautiful.
looked beautiful. There were a lot of great shots in there. The first one was pretty early on, is when like they were saying goodbye and the camera sat in the middle between the stairs and that hallway.
Yes.
Or like it was like a different part of the street, and it just sat in the middle, and she was walking up the stairs as a young girl, and he was kind of turning the corner on the street, and it was just kind of visually showcasing like them separating at that point in their lives. There's also another shot when later in the movie when she was like brushing her teeth in the bathroom, but we were getting his reflection through the mirror, and I think that was also another way of like showcasing the separation between like what she was feeling and how he was reacting in that moment. It was just a cool looking shot as well of like getting that different perspective. So I think the cinematography here was really, really well done.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. Another kind of the same. The first shot you were talking about, the stairwell. I also love how we were recalled to that shot or later on. Like literally at the end
Yes.
of the film, we get the same shot. They're saying goodbye. He gets in the cab and she's walking away, but we get that. They updated it though because it wasn't exactly the same.
Right.
They kind of like melded them together into what the current time into what the meaning of that first shot meant. Um,
Yeah.
Also, when they re-met the first time, you get they almost like get little flashbacks of their first date. I thought that was
Yes.
really cool, and that's more. I guess that's more towards the editing than it is towards the cinematography. But I agree. It was just there's just a lot of things to really appreciate about this film.
Absolutely. So with that, your final thoughts.
So,
Oh,
well,
sorry, we got the
well,
box office.
we can do both. We can
Oh,
do
okay.
both. So more or less, my final thoughts are I really enjoyed it. I can see why this movie was nominated. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of this as we've kind of just briefly scratched the surface. Like there's just a lot of underlying themes that can be explored and talked about and enjoyed in this film.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of glad we were able to do that a little bit. But even just going over some of their numbers, they made 14 million worldwide. The budget, I think I saw it was 12 million.
Okay. So a small.
I think is what I saw here. Yeah, budget was 12 million. It grossed over 16 million. The movie was shot in New York and in Seoul.
Hmm.
Celine Song was American filmmaker making her directorial debut. I thought it was great. I mean, I thought it was really, really well done. I mean, I'm curious to see what this is going to bring come Oscar season.
Yeah, and yeah, as far as my final thoughts, I couldn't agree more. I think every now and then, Ernesto, and we've talked about this before. Excuse me. In past episodes, where it's rare that we're able to talk about a movie more with the themes of the movie than like every time we talk about what happened in the story and the characters and the performances, which was also the performances were great in this
Fantastic.
movie as well. But it's rare that we get a chance to talk about a movie that really highlights on its themes, and we kind of just explored the themes rather than the movie and the story within itself. And we kind of did little bit of everything in this particular review.
Yeah, it makes it
Um,
more. It really makes the conversation way, like it elevates the conversation because I feel like we're able to get past all that. Let's get
yeah,
past whether the movie was able to be good enough. So it's like this
right,
movie surpassed
yeah,
all that, and now it's like, well, let's talk about what Celine was actually trying to bring us. And for her first film, I
exactly,
mean, what a strong one
yeah,
right out of the gate.
absolutely, and it's a huge win for her. And yeah, a movie like this, not really known for trying to break box office numbers or anything, but it made a decent amount for what this movie was. And I believe that when it comes to the Oscar contention, like we mentioned earlier, this is an early Oscar predictions, early Oscar contender that can be nominated for Best Picture. If I was going to go off of anything more, just deduced from what I can tell from this movie, it could be nominated for Best Director. It could be nominated for Best Screenplay. It could be nominated for Best Cinematography. It could even wind in there with the performances. It's kind of hard to tell in, mid-October when we're probably going to get more concrete information and we have a lot more movies to come out before we can see what it's up against.
Mm-hmm.
But just on what I feel that it could be nominated for, this is a great Oscar movie. This is a great movie to be considered for the Oscars, and just put it that way. But yeah, there was just a lot that I was able to take away from this, and just a lot that I can think about that I really appreciated, because a lot of movies don't do that. Like a lot of movies, like I feel that I enjoyed it. It was like, oh, that was a fun ride. I liked what they did. But there's every now and then there's a movie that comes out where like, okay, it was good. I had to really pay attention and sit down and watch it. But once you're done with that, you get to take away a lot from what this movie was trying to say. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed what it gave me after I finished it.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we reviewed this film. I thought this was a great one that we did.
Yeah, I agree. And so yeah, hopefully this won't be the last time we're talking about this movie, and we're going to be once we get more concrete details on how the Oscar season is going to turn out, then we could be talking about this movie again and comparing it to some of the other ones. But there you go. That's our spoiler review on Past Lives. Ernesto, tell our listeners what they can look forward to next week.
Next week, going to be listening to cranky old Martin Scorsese yelling at people to go to the theaters. The great Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, being reunited with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm really excited to see this. I mean, granted, it's 3.5 hours long, but It is a Scorsese film, and it doesn't look like The Irishman, so I'm excited.
It doesn't. It's been getting some very, very high praise, and again, it's another movie that's being early talks of being a high Oscar contender going into the award season. So I feel like, we are kind of laying the land pretty early this year, Ernesto, and we're trying to get some of the ones out of the way. So when we get closer and more concrete, we can, have less to worry about instead of rushing. Because we did that one back in October. Yeah, we're good. You guys listen to that episode back there.
Yeah, we already knocked out this list. There's only 2 movies we got to see.
Exactly. But yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to it because there's been a lot of high praise around it. So I'm like, look, any movie can be any length, but you got to make it worth it for me.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me to sit there for 3.5 hours, Scorsese, you're up on the plate. You're telling people to go to the movies and go watch a movie in theaters. I'm about to do that. Make it worth it.
Yeah.
Make it worth the 3.5 hour journey. That's all I'm saying.
Better be good. That's all I'm saying.
Better be good.
Gonna be mad.
That's right.
You're gonna make me go sit in a movie for 3.5 hours. You better make it worth it.
Make it better work. That's all we're saying. And so by next week, hopefully we could be eating our words and we're like, God damn, that was one hell of a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what, if it's The Irishman, I'll let you know that too. Well, not afraid. Not afraid to tell you either way.
Matt will always shoot you straight.
Damn right. But yeah, also we got Leonardo DiCaprio, so he also doesn't disappoint when it comes to his performances as well. So
DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons.
That's right.
I'm excited. You got an all-star cast. So
same. I totally couldn't agree more. And also, Martin Scorsese's getting up there. So in his old age, can he still produce a masterpiece?
I think so.
We'll find out.
I guess
next week. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But thank you everyone for listening to us each and every week. If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, our Facebook, TikTok, Threads, and I feel like I'm missing one.
X.
Facebook and Facebook, TikTok, Threads page, and YouTube. There we go. That's the one I'm missing.
And X.
And X. Well, that at Box Office Bingers.
Oh,
X is at Box
Sorry.
Office Binger.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's not. I gotta start over. Jesus. Oh my God. They might have missed it. I don't know. I gotta just say one more time. If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, and our Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads page at Box Office Bingers, and our X page at Box Office Binger without the S. There we go.
Got it out there.
Got it out there. I'm good now. Off the soapbox. We'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us every week. We really do appreciate it. Come back for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
And Ernesto Santos. See ya.